Chapter 1. An abject prince at the beginning of the world, the earth was dark and cold. Several years later, 9 brilliant suns emerged from the heavens and hung high in the sky. Their radiance illuminated the boundless earth and nurtured the 9 suns' spiritual energy. Spirit energy nourished the world for millions of years, giving birth to all living things, forming the mysterious land of the 9 suns. It was unknown when humans had appeared in the land of the 9 suns. They comprehended the heavenly Tao, peeped into the secrets of the heavens, created the mysterious Tao technique, absorbed the 9 suns' spiritual energy to refine their bodies and souls, cultivated the power to defy the heavens, and became the ruler of all living beings in the land of the 9 suns, Tianqin Empire, Imperial City Palace. At night, the Imperial Palace was brightly lit. Fireworks bloomed in the sky and shone brightly, enveloping tens of thousands of pavilions and palaces. This was to celebrate the newly crowned crown prince. South of the Imperial Palace, in a secluded group of old buildings. On the roof of a small building, a young man frowned as he looked at the beautiful fireworks in the night sky. His eyes flashed with determination as if he was recalling the past. The youth's name was Qin Yun. He was 15 this year. His father was the Tianqin Emperor and his mother was the Empress, but she had passed away many years ago. He was originally the crown prince, but 5 years ago, he was plotted against and deposed. 5 years ago, the crown prince's grand preceptor was determined to be a cultivator of demonic arts. He was a martial artist of the demonic path and cultivated one of the forbidden demonic arts. When this matter spread out, it suddenly caused a huge uproar. An entire nation was shocked. In order to protect himself, the grand preceptor fled the palace, and his whereabouts were still unknown. After that, the old officials jointly petitioned the Tianqin Emperor to abolish the crown prince. The reason was that the crown prince had been tutored by the grand preceptor since he was young, so it was very likely that he had secretly cultivated demonic arts. Moreover, they also asked the emperor to appoint a new empress and crown a new crown prince to restore the prestige of the country. The emperor might have been pressured by the courtiers to do as he was told, so Qin Yun's position as crown prince was abolished. However, the old officials did not give up. They were worried that Qin Yun would accumulate resentment in his heart and secretly cultivate demonic arts. In the future, he would usurp power and take revenge on them. Therefore, they acted first and reported later. They captured Qin Yun, who was only 10 years old at the time, and forcibly extracted 4 of the 5 spirit veins in his body. Qin Yun was born with 5 spirit veins. Such martial talent was extremely rare. After 4 of his spirit veins were taken away, he only had 1 left. The originally talented crown prince had become a mediocre prince overnight. Spirit veins were extremely important in cultivating martial arts. The more spirit veins one had, the more spiritual energy one could sense. The faster and denser the spiritual energy one could absorb, the faster and smoother one's cultivation. Qin Yun had the 5 sun spirit vein to begin with. His talent was extraordinary, and he could sense the spiritual energy of the 5 suns. Furthermore, after being brutally stripped of 4 spiritual veins, he was left with only 1 spiritual vein. He could only sense the spiritual energy of 1 sun. No matter how hard he worked in the future, it would be hard for him to become a strong cultivator. You conspired to frame me and elder sister grand preceptor. Not only did you steal my position as crown prince, you also destroyed my spirit vein and severed my martial arts foundation. This enmity is irreconcilable. In the future, when I, Qin Yun, am successful in my cultivation, I will definitely uproot your power. Qin Yun swore in his heart. His current situation was all thanks to those treacherous old officials. Empress, Crown Prince, don't think that I don't know that you are involved in this matter. It doesn't matter if I don't become the Crown Prince, but for destroying my spirit vein and severing my martial path, I will slowly settle this score with you. Qin Yun possessed 5 spiritual veins and was also the Crown Prince. In the future, he would definitely become a martial arts expert and experience the vast and mysterious nine suns, nine desolate world. He did not care about the position of crown prince or emperor, because strength was everything. After he jumped down from the roof, he put on his special weight-bearing equipment and began his night cultivation. The various weight-bearing equipment on his body added up to more than 500 kilograms. Because he only had one ordinary spirit vein, he could not quickly absorb spiritual energy to temper his body. Therefore, he could only use this arduous method to temper his body and obtain strength. I must become stronger. My fate must be in my own hands. He wore a few hundred kilograms of heavy equipment and practiced a set of Spirit Tiger Fist. This set of fist techniques was something he had bought with all his savings. Although it was of a low grade, it could absorb spiritual energy while tempering his body. For the past 5 years, in order to change his fate, in order to possess strength and protect his dignity, Qin Yun had cultivated arduously every day and night, rain or shine. The fireworks to celebrate the crown prince only stopped late at night. The sky above the palace was shrouded in thick smoke, and the smell of gunpowder was thick. Qin Yun was so tired that he felt weak. Although it was hard to cultivate day and night, it made him feel that his strength was increasing. This was the motivation for him to persevere. I'm really tired today. There must be a great effect. I'm going to rest. He came to the well and was about to draw water to take a bath when an old man suddenly walked over. This old man was the chief steward of the palace. "Steward Wang, what's the matter?" Qin Yun hurriedly asked when he saw the old man. "Fifth Prince," Steward Wang said solemnly. When Qin Yun saw Steward Wang's expression, he turned serious as well. The emperor has ordered that in 10 days, all the princes who have yet to step into the 4th level of the martial body stage must join the army and head to the border to fight against the Beastman army. Steward Wang's expression was solemn as a hint of sympathy flashed across his eyes. When Qin Yun heard this, his expression changed drastically. His body suddenly trembled as he clenched his fists tightly, producing a crisp GG sound. A prince who was unable to step into the 4th level of the martial body stage at the age of 15 was seen as having no fate with the martial way. It took a lot of resources to raise a group of princes. If the princes were to join the army, not only would they be able to gain the goodwill of the people and soldiers, they would also be able to increase the goodwill of the empire among the commoners. This was also a rule of the Tianqin Empire over the years. There were 9 levels of the martial body realm. The first 3 levels were mainly focused on qi refinement. If the spirit vein was too weak, it would be difficult for one to sense the sun's spiritual energy in the world. Qin Yun only had one spirit vein. He could only sense the spiritual energy of one sun. This was the main reason why his cultivation was slow. If it was anyone else, they would have given up on cultivating martial arts. Only he was persisting. If you escape at the last moment, once you are arrested, you will be tortured to death. Qin Yun could not hear the voice behind Steward Wang. He did not know when Steward Wang had left. He stood beside the well in a daze, his mind blank. It was as if he had fallen into the depths of a cold well and was constantly struggling. This feeling of helplessness made him despair. When he was 10 years old, he was still a young child. 4 of his spirit veins had been extracted by a treacherous official and the poisoned concubine. At that time, there was no one to help him. From then on, he swore that no matter how much suffering he had to endure, he would become stronger. Only by becoming stronger would he not be bullied, would he not be taken away by others, and would he not despair in the face of adversity. At this moment, he was once again in a desperate situation. He was once again engulfed by despair, as if he had returned to 5 years ago, to the moment when his spirit vein had been extracted. For the past 5 years, he had been ridiculed in every way in the imperial palace. No matter how many difficulties he had encountered, he had not given up on cultivating martial arts. After arduous training, he finally welcomed a glimmer of hope. He had finally stepped into the 2nd level of the martial body stage. At that moment, his eyes were brimming with tears. His arduous cultivation had finally paid off. From then on, he firmly believed that as long as he worked hard, He would one day become a martial arts expert and change his fate. Chapter 2. Legendary Spirit Vein. After the banquet to celebrate the crown prince ended, the luxuriously dressed princes and princesses chatted and laughed. When they passed by Qin Yun's dilapidated pavilion and saw Qin Yun sitting by the well in a daze, they immediately guessed something. The former crown prince is about to become a soldier and head to the border to feed the beast men. This change is really great, hee. It's all that Demoness' fault. She cultivated some demonic art when she had nothing better to do. Otherwise, how could he be where he is today? His mother also offended many people in the palace when she was alive. No one will help him. That's right, the new crown prince originally had 5 meridians. Later on, he successfully fused with one of Qin Yun's spirit veins. Now, he has a talent of 6 meridians. Furthermore, he has stepped into the 6th level of the martial body stage at such a young age. He is much stronger than Qin Yun back then. Furthermore, he is very handsome. The new crown prince will definitely not disappoint us. He will be the future heavenly Qin emperor. He's going to the Tianxian martial school tomorrow, right? That's a very powerful martial arts academy. Hearing the conversation from afar, all sorts of emotions surged in Qin Yun's heart. One of the 4 spirit veins that had been extracted from him had been fused with the new crown prince. Fusing with a spirit vein was an extremely difficult task. Amongst the 10,000 spirit veins, it was difficult to find one that was perfectly compatible with him. It mainly depended on luck, but the new crown prince had successfully fused with it. It was his own spirit vein that allowed the new crown prince to possess a rare 6th spirit vein. Qin Yun's heart was immediately filled with grief and anger. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Bastard treacherous official, bastard empress. I will shatter all of you. He roared as he crazily struck the stone well, causing blood to spurt out from his fists. Suddenly, he felt a comfortable warmth coming from his wrist, causing him, who had lost his mind due to anger, to immediately wake up. Big Sister Grand Preceptor gave me something before she left. Qin Yun hurriedly looked at his wrist. It was a 9-pearl bracelet that was stained with his blood. He carefully looked at the bracelet. There were 9 black beads on it, about the size of a longan core. The surface was uneven and lusterless. Because there were only 9 beads, it looked very sparse and ordinary, not good-looking at all. Before Big Sister Grand Preceptor left the palace, she came to find me in a hurry and told me to keep it safe. She didn't tell me what it was. Qin Yun stared at the mysterious 9-pearl bracelet and frowned slightly as he recalled what had happened back then. The 9-pearl bracelet released a warm current that flowed from his wrist into his arm. He closed his eyes, calmed his mind, and sensed carefully. He discovered that the warm current was actually formed by the convergence of 9 different spiritual energies. Shocked, he opened his eyes and looked at the bracelet on his wrist in disbelief. As long as one was a human, they would be born with a spirit vein, known as the Yang spirit vein. Those who could only sense the spiritual qi of a single sun would find it hard to become powerful martial artists. They were destined to be mediocre for the rest of their lives. A 2-sun spiritual pulse would be better, and a 3-sun spiritual pulse would be considered a mid-level talent. 4-sun spiritual pulse is above average talent. 5-sun spiritual pulse and 6-sun spiritual pulse are rare geniuses. 7 yang spiritual veins were known as super geniuses. 8 yang spiritual veins were even harder to find in 10,000 years. As for the 9 solar spiritual vein, it only existed in legends. Through the mysterious 9-pearl bracelet left behind by the Grand Preceptor, Qin Yun could sense 9 types of spiritual energy. This was equivalent to the 9 yang spirit vein, a legendary talent. He was extremely excited. He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down and carefully observed the bracelet. Each bead had a complicated pattern on it. The fine lines crisscrossed each other, but upon closer inspection, it was not messy at all. It was very natural. In order to confirm if it was true, he tried to absorb the spiritual energy again. Sure enough, he could absorb 9 different types of spiritual energy into his body. He had only absorbed the 9 suns' spiritual energy for a moment, and the fatigue in his body had lessened by quite a bit. The 9 suns' spiritual energy is truly powerful. I have the talent of a 9 yang spirit vein, so I might be able to step into the 4th level of the martial body stage within 10 days. That way, I won't have to join the army. Qin Yun was overjoyed as his heart thumped wildly. This joy made his entire body tremble with excitement. He never expected that the mysterious bracelet given to him by the Grand Preceptor would be able to reverse his fate. Qin Yun, who was overwhelmed with emotions, took a deep breath to relax and maintain a calm heart. In the 9 yang world, the spiritual energy of the 9 suns was different and filled the world. The more spirit veins there were, the more sun spiritual energy one could sense, and the more types of spiritual energy one could absorb. After the spiritual energy released by different suns was absorbed into one's body, it could even fuse and evolve. The effect was not as simple as adding them together. Due to the nourishment of the 9 suns' spiritual energy, Qin Yun only needed to absorb it for an hour before his fatigue was completely swept away. The injuries on his fists also rapidly healed under the nourishment of the spiritual energy. He couldn't wait to enter his room and borrow the 9-pearl bracelet to absorb the 9 suns' spiritual energy to cultivate. He had to make the best use of his time to break through and cultivate a powerful strength. He had to grasp his own fate in his hands. Qin Yun entered his room and sat cross-legged on the bed. He closed his eyes, calmed his heart, and began to draw energy. The 9 suns' spiritual energy flowed through the pitch-black bracelet like a trickle. It slowly flowed into his body, turning into 9 colored threads that converged and flowed through his limbs and bones. After the spiritual energy entered the body, it was still spiritual energy. Although it could be stored in the body, after a long period of time, the spiritual energy would slowly leak out of the body. At this time, he needed to refine the spiritual energy into inner qi and store it in his dantian. The first 3 levels of the martial body stage mainly focused on qi refinement. The first level of qi drawing learned to sense spiritual energy and draw it into the body. The second level was to nurture spiritual energy. After the spiritual energy entered the body, it would fuse with the flesh and blood, strengthening the body. The third level of qi refinement would refine the spiritual energy into inner qi and allow it to flow through his limbs and bones. Qin Yun was stuck at the second level of the martial arts realm. He had not made any progress for a long time, making it difficult for him to break through to the third level. The key to breaking through to the third level was to introduce a large amount of spiritual energy into his body to nourish his muscles and blood, making his body stronger. After that, he turned his body into a millstone, causing the spiritual energy to circulate rapidly throughout his body. It rubbed against the blood in his body and produced inner qi. Previously, he only had one spirit vein and could only draw in the spiritual energy from one sun. There was only one type of spiritual energy, which was extremely weak and difficult to circulate. And through the 9-pearl bracelet, he could draw in the spiritual energy of the 9 suns. Now, the 9 types of spiritual energy were flowing through his body, quickly fusing into his flesh and blood. His muscles, bones, and flesh were growing rapidly. Early in the morning, the 9 suns lined up in a straight line and rose from the horizon, driving away the darkness and coldness, bringing warmth and light to the land of the 9 suns. After cultivating through the 9-pearl bracelet for an entire night, Qin Yun naturally woke up. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. They flickered with light, and he looked extremely spirited. His temperament had changed greatly. He clenched his fist, and the aura in his body flowed. A ball of air flowed into his arm, and he punched out, creating a gust of wind. It's a success. I've finally cultivated inner qi and stepped into the third level of the martial body stage. Qin Yun's eyes could not help but moisten as he felt incomparably excited. He secretly sighed at the terrifying power of his legendary talent. In just a single night, he had broken through. If it was the previous one-spirit vein, he would need at least 2 to 3 years to break through without any resources. Big Sister Grand Preceptor, what happened to you? I will definitely find you. He looked into the distance, his thoughts in a mess. The Grand Preceptor's origins were mysterious. She had been invited to the palace by his mother a long time ago and was responsible for teaching him martial arts. She was a gentle and peerless beauty who had been very good to him since he was young. Chapter 3. Spiritual Energy Pill. The new crown prince possessed the 6 yang spiritual pulse. This was the most talented prince in the history of the Tianqin Empire. As for the current Qin Yun, because he had the 9 pearl bracelet, it was equivalent to obtaining the 9 yang spiritual pulse. This kind of talent had only appeared in legends, and it far surpassed the 6 yang spiritual pulse in all aspects. Qin Yun opened the door to the courtyard and saw a group of people passing by in a hurry. This group of people were rushing to the crown prince's palace. They were going to send the crown prince off to the Tianqin martial school. Right now, everyone wanted to curry favor with the crown prince and seek benefits for themselves. Back then, when Qin Yun had just been conferred the title of crown prince, this group of people had also fawned on him. However, 5 years ago, after he was stripped of his position as crown prince, those who had once flattered him immediately cut off all ties with him, especially those who had received the Grand Preceptor's favor. They immediately put on ugly expressions and used the most vicious language to curse the Grand Preceptor. This was to prove that they had nothing to do with the Grand Preceptor and avoid being punished. These lowly people, for their own selfishness, they would do things that go against their conscience. In front of great power, they're like ants. Qin Yun had already seen through this group of people and was even more determined to become stronger. Crown Prince? The throne? I don't care. He closed the door and began to cultivate in the small courtyard. I need to learn the Qi explosion technique as soon as possible. This is the only martial arts technique that Big Sister Grand Preceptor left for me. Qin Yun circulated his inner Qi and guided it to his arm before punching the ground. Whoosh! The moment the inner Qi rushed out of his fist, it exploded. It caused a wave of air to surge out from his fist. The withered leaves on the ground were instantly shattered after being hit by the air wave, and a crater was formed in the mud. The Qi explosion technique was a self-defense martial art that the Grand Preceptor had imparted to Qin Yun. The power of this cultivation technique was that even if one did not cultivate inner Qi, they could still use weak spiritual energy to create a Qi explosion and unleash a very strong power. The longer I condense inner Qi, the greater the power. I'll try condensing inner Qi for 10 breaths of time. Qin Yun took a deep breath and silently counted the time in his heart. After 10 breaths, a surge of inner Qi trembled in his dantian. He released his inner Qi according to the technique of the Qi explosion technique and punched a large rock. Bang! His fist fiercely smashed on the rock, causing a gust of air to surge in all directions. The rock cracked and broke into many small pieces. Qin Yun heaved a sigh of relief. His face was pale, and his arm felt a slight pain. However, his heart was filled with joy because the power of the Qi explosion technique was very strong. That punch just now had at least 1,000 pounds of force. That's right. As long as I break through to the 3rd level of the martial body realm, I can go to the Spirit Pill Pavilion to collect the pills. Qin Yun suddenly thought of this matter. In the Tianqin Empire, once the princes and princesses broke through to the 3rd level of the martial body stage, they would be able to go to the Spirit Pill Pavilion to receive 5 spiritual energy pills. After resting for a moment, Qin Yun headed for the Spirit Pill Pavilion. On the east side of the Imperial Palace, there was a medicinal garden. It was more than 10 acres of land and was surrounded by walls. The Spirit Dan Pavilion was located in the medicinal garden. It was a classic 3-story building. Qin Yun jogged for a moment and arrived at the entrance of the Spirit Dan Hall. He saw many guards lined up in a long line. They all came to collect a spiritual energy Dan. Every year, they could collect one. When the guards saw Qin Yun arrive, they did not salute the prince. This was because everyone knew that Qin Yun's power was gone. In another 10 days, he would be forced to join the army and be completely abandoned by the royal family. He would never have a chance to make a comeback. Qin Yun could also sense the contempt the guards had for him. He was secretly displeased, but he did not say anything. All these years, he had lived like this. Because he was a prince, he did not need to line up to receive the spiritual energy pill. He directly walked to the window at the very front. The person in charge of distributing the pills was a round-faced, middle-aged man. When he saw Qin Yun, his tone was very bad. He did not hide the contempt in his eyes as he said with a mocking tone, "Fifth Prince, what are you doing here?" The round-faced, middle-aged man was the Empress man. Now that the Empress was in power, she could cover the sky with one hand in the palace. As the Empress' loyal dog servant, he was quite arrogant. Qin Yun frowned and said coldly, "I'm here to collect the spiritual energy pill. You're only at the second level of the martial body realm. Don't come here to cause trouble." The round-faced, middle-aged man sneered and said, "I know you really want to break through, but don't forget that you are no longer the crown prince 5 years ago. Right now, the new crown prince is a true dragon among men, a proud son of heaven." The round-faced, middle-aged man wanted to mock him, but Qin Yun's powerful and slender hand had reached out in unknown time and bit his neck like a wolf. Pung! Qin Yun grabbed the round-faced man out of the window and threw him heavily to the ground. His foot stepped on the fat face, and his voice was filled with an imposing aura as he said, "Dog slave, remember this. Even if I'm not the crown prince, I'm still the esteemed fifth prince. It's not your turn to be impudent in front of me. Using a slave to bully a master is a capital crime. Even if I kill a dog slave like you, there won't be any consequences." When the guard in the queue saw Qin Yun's strength, they were alarmed. They had all seen that Qin Yun had used inner qi. Only a third-level martial body could release inner qi. This meant that Qin Yun had already stepped into the third level of the martial body realm. The round-faced, middle-aged man who had been taught a lesson was very certain that Qin Yun was at the third level of the martial body realm. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Qin Yun while trembling. He pleaded for mercy and fear. "This lowly one will immediately get the spiritual energy pill for the fifth prince." The middle-aged man got up and hurriedly entered the house. He took out 5 spiritual energy pills and came in front of Qin Yun. He bent down and respectfully handed them over. The other guards also lowered their heads and bowed to Qin Yun. Although Qin Yun was only at the third level of the martial body realm, he could already feel the charm of power. Only by grasping powerful strength would one be able to gain respect and not be looked down upon. Otherwise, one could only allow snobbish people and evil people to trample on one's dignity. Qin Yun took the spiritual energy pill and turned to walk towards the entrance of the herb garden. He saw a young girl and a youth walk in. The young man was handsome and the young girl was beautiful. They were dressed in gorgeous clothes. They laughed and talked. It was very sweet. "Yo, isn't this Qin Yun? You will be forced to join the army in 10 days. I thought you had already committed suicide." The youth was dressed in a dazzling golden-red brocade robe. His face was filled with a disdainful smile as he spoke to Qin Yun. He was the 4th prince. His name was Qin Tianyi, and he was the younger brother of the crown prince. He had just stepped into the 4th level of the martial body stage and was also here to collect the spiritual energy pill. When the guard saw the 4th prince, Qin Tianyi, arrive, they immediately bowed. The round-faced, middle-aged man even jogged over. Qin Yun looked at Qin Tianyi expressionlessly and said, "I'm not a coward like you who would think of suicide when you encounter difficulties. I just stepped into the 3rd level of the martial body stage and am here to collect the spiritual energy pill." With that, he looked at the young girl beside Qin Tianyi. The young girl was wearing a snow-white dress. Her face was beautiful and she had a refined beauty. Chapter 4. Fury of Qi Explosion. A few days ago, Qin Yun had heard that Yuan Yinying had broken through to the 4th level of the martial body realm. She had come here to collect the spiritual energy pill. Other than the princes and princesses, the descendants of the nobles could all come to the spiritual pill pavilion to collect the pills. When Yuan Yinying was young, she had suffered from a strange illness. She had always been weak and sickly. Later on, she was cured by Qin Yun's Grand Preceptor's miraculous medical skills. Therefore, she had a very good relationship with Qin Yun when she was young. However, after Qin Yun was stripped of his position as crown prince, the two of them had not met much. When Yuan Yinying and Qin Tianyi heard that Qin Yun had stepped into the third level of the martial body realm, they were extremely surprised. This was because Qin Yun only had one spirit vein. Without the nourishment of a large number of pills, it was impossible for him to break through to the third level of the martial body realm. Qin Yun smiled at Yuan Yinying and said gently, "Sister Yinying, long time no see. A girl really changes 18 times. I almost couldn't recognize you." "Yun, brother, you just received 5 spiritual energy pills, right?" Yuan Yinying lowered her head slightly and said softly with a slightly shy expression. Qin Tianyi's expression suddenly changed when he saw Qin Yun and Yuan Yinying conversing so intimately. Everyone found it strange. Qin Yun was already in such dire straits, yet he still had the favor of a beauty. Qin Yun walked to Yuan Yinying's side and said with a smile, "Sister Yinying, you are also here to collect the pill, right? You are much stronger than me now. You are already a martial artist at the 4th level of the martial body realm. The 3rd level and the 4th level was a watershed. At the 3rd level of the martial body realm, one would need to use a large amount of inner qi to condense an inner yuan. Only then would one be considered to have stepped into the 4th level of the martial body realm. Inner yuan could allow a person to store a large amount of inner qi in their body. It was extremely important to martial artists. It was not difficult for a talented person to condense inner yuan. However, it was extremely difficult for people with only 1 or 2 meridians. When Qin Tianyi saw Qin Yun and Yuan Yinying chatting and laughing, his expression turned uglier and uglier. Everyone could tell that he was jealous, but he did not flare up. He only clenched his fists and kept a straight face. "Brother Yun, you will be joining the army in 10 days. Although you're a martial artist at the 3rd level of the martial body mirror, it is impossible for you to step into the 4th level of the martial body mirror within 10 days. Yuan Yinying's words made Qin Yun feel that something was amiss. He could not help but frown as he continued listening. "You only have 1 spirit vein, so you are destined to have no fate with the martial Tao. I know this isn't your fault. It's all the Grand Preceptor's fault. Big Brother Yun, accept your fate and give the spirit energy pill in your hands to Tianyi." Yuan Yinying, shut up. Without waiting for her to finish, Qin Yun shouted angrily, "If the Grand Preceptor had not treated you back then, would you be where you are today? I didn't expect you to be such an ungrateful person." As Qin Yun shouted, the anger and inner qi accumulated in his heart surged out, forming a strong gust of wind that blew Yuan Yinying back a few steps. Yuan Yinying's long hair was blown into a mess. Because she could sense Qin Yun's furious killing intent, her beautiful face turned pale from fright. Her delicate body trembled slightly. With Qin Yun's aura, even the surrounding guards were secretly terrified. Yuan Yinying could not help but feel a sense of disgust after being shouted at by Qin Yun. Her tone turned cold as she said, "It's just a ways for you to eat the spiritual energy pill. Why don't you give it to Big Brother Tianyi? I'll get my father to take care of you in the army." The reason why Qin Yun was crippled had a lot to do with the Empress. However, the Yuan Yinying in front of him had actually asked him to give the spiritual energy pill to the Empress's youngest son. It was obvious that Yuan Yinying was trying her best to curry favor with Qin Tianyi. Apart from pity, the way Yuan Yinying looked at Qin Yun was filled with contempt and disgust. Qin Yun was infuriated once again. He clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were resolute. His tone was firm as he said coldly, "I, Qin Yun, would rather die on the battlefield than need any care." With that, he walked toward the door. Halt! Qin Tianyi suddenly shouted coldly. He took a few steps forward and stood in front of Qin Yun. Qin Tianyi's face was filled with pride because Yuan Yinying was trying to curry favor with him. It was as if she was announcing to everyone that she had nothing to do with Qin Yun anymore. What is it? Qin Yun said coldly. Qin Tianyi suddenly grabbed Qin Yun's collar. His face was filled with arrogance, and his tone was insolent. He said with a sneer, Sister Yingying is right. You're just a cripple. Eating the spiritual energy pill is just a waste. You're not worthy of eating the spiritual energy pill at all. Why don't you give it to me? The spiritual energy pill was a low-grade spirit pill. It cost 4,000 crystal coins each. 5 of them would be 20,000 crystal coins. It was not a small amount for a prince. What if I don't give it to you? Qin Yun's eyes revealed killing intent as he said slowly. Give it to him. It's really a waste for you to eat the spiritual energy pill. And Big Brother Tianyi has the 4-sun spiritual vein, so he can absorb the spiritual energy pill better. Yuan Yinying, who was at the side, urged. When Qin Yun heard Yuan Yinying's words, the anger that he had suppressed for a long time surged up in an instant. At this moment, his mind was blank. His body involuntarily circulated the inner qi in his body with all his might. He crazily gathered his inner qi in his arm. It's not up to you to decide whether I'm worthy of eating the spiritual energy pill or not. Compared to me, you guys are even less worthy to eat spirit qi pills. Qin Yun's voice was extremely cold. It was like an unsheathed sword, emitting a cold aura that sent chills down one's spine. This is your fate. Your life is cheap. This is how it should be. Qin Tianyi grabbed Qin Yun's clothes. His face was ferocious as he shouted, You damned cripple! Hurry up and hand over the spiritual energy pill. As Qin Tianyi cursed, he actually waved his hand, wanting to slap Qin Yun in the face. Qin Yun was already infuriated. The inner qi in his arm suddenly exploded. He raised his palm and quickly slapped Qin Tianyi's face. Boom! This slap was fast and ruthless, landing on Qin Tianyi's face. At this moment, Qin Yun's condensed inner qi was released to his heart's content along with his anger. After Qin Tianyi was beaten, he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. His entire face was deformed and distorted. Broken teeth and blood splattered everywhere, and his body rolled on the ground. Fortunately, he was at the 4th level of the martial body realm and did not immediately faint. However, his head was dizzy and he could not even stand up. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. They were all scared silly. Yuan Yinying, who was at the side, was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. Qin Tianyi, who was the first to attack, was actually knocked to the ground by Qin Yun's sudden palm strike. Qin Yun was only at the 3rd level of the martial body realm. Why was his inner qi so powerful to be able to defeat a 4th level martial body martial artist? Chapter 5. Enter Yuan, you dare. He is the son of the Empress. He is also my future husband. Yuan Yinying, who was at the side, hurriedly shouted. She did not call him Brother Yun like before. Qin Yun said with a sneer, In 10 days, I will be joining the army. Since I'm going to die anyway, I might as well drag someone down with me. No one would doubt his words. He was weak and was forced to join the army. If he went to the front lines to fight, he would definitely die. He would definitely do anything. Qin, just as Yuan Yinying said a word, Qin Yun's cold and emotionless gaze shot over, causing her face to turn pale as she took a few steps back. She was so frightened by Qin Yun's intense killing intent that she did not dare to make a sound. Qin Yun grabbed Qin Tianyi's throat and shouted, Give me the spiritual energy pill. This is your last chance. Qin Tianyi's throat was being forcefully gripped. His injured face was also in pain as he struggled bitterly. A few guards rushed over, but they did not dare to act rashly. Qin Tianyi endured the pain and nodded. Then, he glanced at the round-faced, middle-aged man in charge of distributing the spiritual energy pills and shouted with difficulty, Quick, give it to him. The round-faced, middle-aged man trembled as he took out 15 spiritual energy pills and handed them to Qin Yun. Qin Tianyi had just stepped into the fourth level of the martial body realm and was able to receive the reward of 15 spiritual energy pills. However, they had all been snatched away by Qin Yun. After Qin Yun took the spiritual energy pill, he released Qin Tianyi and looked at Yuan Yinying. He said with a sneer, "You want this kind of trash? For an ungrateful person like you, in order to enjoy glory and wealth, it's not strange for you to marry this kind of trash." After saying that, he left without looking back. Everyone looked at Qin Yun's proud back and exclaimed in their hearts. No one had expected that Qin Yun, who was at the third level of the martial body realm, would be able to beat Qin Tianyi, who was at the fourth level of the martial body realm, into such a sorry state. Yuan Yinying bit her lips as she stared blankly at the guards carrying Qin Tianyi away. Qin Yun returned to the small building and looked at the 15 spiritual energy pills. He frowned and muttered to himself, "There are still 10 days before the Hua Lingwu Academy comes to recruit students. They only accept people at the fourth level of the martial body realm. I have to break through quickly. As long as I enter the Hua Lingwu Academy, I will have a stable environment to cultivate in." The Spirit Qi pill contains a large amount of Spirit Qi, which can help me break through quickly. As long as he could condense an inner Yuan in his Dantian, he would be considered to have stepped into the fourth level of the martial body stage. Inner Yuan could store a large amount of inner Qi. At the same time, it could also refine internal Qi and make it purer. To condense inner Yuan, one first had to continuously absorb spiritual energy into the body, then convert a large amount of spiritual energy into inner Qi and store it in the Dantian, and finally condense the inner Qi into inner Yuan. It was not difficult, but it was not easy either. If it was someone with a lot of spirit veins, they could easily cross this threshold. After Qin Yun ate a spiritual energy pill, he quickly sensed 9 streams of spiritual energy circulating in his body, which made him pleasantly surprised. The mysterious 9-beaded bracelet could not only absorb the spirit Qi of the 9 suns, but could also sense the 9 types of spirit Qi contained in the spirit Qi pill, which meant that it could be completely absorbed. People with 6 sun spiritual veins can only absorb 6 types of spiritual energy from pills, and Qin Yun could absorb 9 types of spiritual energy. This was the advantage of having more spirit veins. Therefore, the more spirit veins one had, the higher one's talent in martial arts was. In the following period of time, Qin Yun refined the spiritual energy pill every day, refining the spiritual energy that surged into his body into inner Qi. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. The inner Qi in Qin Yun's Dantian was vigorous and pure. It gathered together and condensed into a sparkling golden cyclone, causing his Dantian to swell up. He used his mind to control the cyclone in his Dantian, causing it to constantly shrink. Not long after, Qin Yun suddenly felt that his abdomen was very hot and somewhat uncomfortable. However, he could only endure the discomfort brought about by the scorching heat and continued to shrink the cyclone. Time slowly passed. The sky was about to brighten. Today was the day the prince would join the army. If Qin Yun could not step into the fourth level of the martial body stage, he would be forced to join the army. At this moment, he was channeling the 9 suns' spiritual energy into his body. Suddenly, Qin Yun's body, which was drenched in sweat, emitted a faint golden mist. It was as if he was about to condense his elemental energy. Early in the morning, sunlight shone in through the window. Qin Yun let out a muffled grunt as golden mist suddenly spewed out from his body. A gust of air surged out, causing the things in the room to crackle and sway. I've finally condensed my elemental energy and stepped into the fourth level of the martial body realm. He clenched his fists in excitement. If he could break through before the ceremony, he wouldn't need to join the army. After Qin Yun was happy, he packed his luggage and carried his bag. He walked out of the small building that had accompanied him as he grew up and rushed to the square of the imperial palace. In the past few days, there had been a heated discussion in the palace. It was the matter of Qin Yun stealing Qin Tianyi's spiritual energy pill. Many people found it strange because in the past 10 days, the Empress did not cause trouble for Qin Yun. Therefore, everyone speculated that the Emperor of Tianqin was secretly obstructing him, allowing Qin Yun to spend the last 10 days in the empire in peace. The spacious square of the imperial palace was bustling with noise and excitement. Today, the palace was open to the public. People outside could come in and sign up for the army or sign up to enter the Hualingwu Academy. The entire day would be very lively. The southern district of the plaza was the most lively. This was because the famous Hualingwu Academy had sent many teachers to recruit students. Many people were queuing up to register. In the eastern part of the plaza, it was also very lively. There was going to be a ceremony for the princes to join the army here, and the princes who had joined the army had already started to resist. Qin Yun rushed to the east side of the plaza and saw a few dejected princes standing on a large red carpet being watched. They were all pitiful 15-year-old wretches who had yet to step into the fourth level of the martial body stage. The ceremony for the prince to join the army was very grand. After all, he was a prince, so he had to be a little more dignified. However, no matter how dignified they could not make the princes happy. All of them looked as if they had been castrated, their faces filled with grief. Don't be depressed. Qin Yun, the former crown prince, will go with you. Someone teased from the side. Qin Yun was once the crown prince and had such a high status. However, because he was weak, he was forced to join the army. This was equivalent to being executed. Everyone was filled with emotion. The most heartless royal family. At that moment, Qin Yun was standing beside the red carpet. He did not stand on the red carpet in the middle. Why didn't he stand in? This puzzled everyone. Not long after, a shining golden phoenix sedan chair was carried by many people as it slowly arrived. There was a group of guards and palace maids following closely behind the sedan chair. This was the Empress' sedan chair. A chief steward came forward and announced loudly to the crowd that the emperor had urgent matters to attend to and could not come here to preside over the prince's enlistment ceremony. Therefore, the empress would take care of this matter. Qin Yun had not seen the emperor for several years. He vaguely felt that the emperor would secretly help him from time to time, but he could not explain why he had such a feeling. The luxurious sedan chair arrived, and a coquettish woman wearing a dazzling phoenix robe walked down. This was the Tianqin Empress. Her luxurious phoenix robe flickered with a faint crystal light as spiritual energy lingered around it. This was a set of armor that had a certain level of defensive ability and was priceless. When the Empress got off the sedan chair, everyone immediately bowed. Dispense with the formalities. The Empress's tone was indifferent. Her eyes were cold and sharp as she swept her gaze across the crowd. She had a cold and arrogant majesty to her. Her gaze stopped on Qin Yun. Her cold eyes narrowed slightly as a sinister glint flashed across them. Her youngest son, Qin Tianyi, had been injured by Qin Yun 10 days ago. 15 spiritual energy pills had been snatched away. If not for the emperor's secret obstruction, she would have attacked Qin Yun long ago. Now, when she saw that Qin Yun was about to join the army and die, she felt much better. As for Qin Yun, he wished that he could kill this sinister woman. Chapter 6. Beautiful Teacher. A prince who is yet to reach the fourth level of the martial body stage at the age of 15 must join the army and head to the border. The Empress's face was as cold as frost as she looked at Qin Yun coldly. She shouted sternly, "Qin Yun, what are you still standing there for? Didn't you hear what I said?" Qin Yun stood calmly by the red carpet as if nothing had happened. When he heard the Empress's question, he smiled and said, "What a pity. I have already stepped into the fourth level of the martial body stage. There's no need to go. Hurry up and start now. Hurry up." The moment these words were spoken, everyone was shocked and a commotion broke out. Everyone knew that Qin Yun had become a cripple 5 years ago. A few days ago, he had broken through to the third level of the martial body stage and injured Qin Tianyi. When this news spread, it shocked the entire imperial city. And now, after only 10 days, he had broken through to the fourth level of the martial body stage. Such a cultivation speed was unbelievable. Lying to avoid joining the army is a felony. The Empress did not believe Qin Yun's words at all. Killing intent surfaced in her cold eyes as she shouted coldly, "Hurry up and stand in there. I have just cultivated my elemental energy and am already a 4th-level martial artist." Qin Yun opened his palm and forced out a sparkling mist from his palm. The inner qi overflowed like a fluorescent light. This was an obvious characteristic of condensing inner yuan. It was only because the inner qi was thin that it looked weak. Qin Yun only had one spirit vein, but he was able to step into the 4th level of the martial body stage at the age of 15. Everyone's faces were filled with astonishment and doubt as they discussed this matter. The Empress's expression changed slightly as she said loudly with a slightly anxious voice, "In order to avoid joining the army, you must have used some secret technique to cause your inner qi to leak out. Quickly invite the teachers from the Hualing Wu Academy over. They are in the South District of the plaza. Let them appraise it." Seeing that Qin Yun was about to join the army, as long as she bribed someone in the army, she would be able to secretly kill him. However, she could not accept what had happened. A guard hurriedly ran to the South District of the plaza to invite a teacher from the Hualing Wu Academy over. Qin Yun was very calm because he was able to condense elemental energy. He was indeed at the 4th level of the martial body realm. He was not worried at all. "Your Majesty, the teachers of the Hualing Wu Academy are very busy. They don't have the time to come over, so they asked you to move over." The guard walked over and whispered. The corner of the Empress's eyes twitched. She was secretly infuriated, but she could not say anything. The Hualing Wu Academy was very strong and did not fear the imperial power of the empire. "Let's go," the queen said expressionlessly. "All right, I'll sign up for the Hualing Wu Academy as well." Qin Yun smiled. He was also looking forward to his life after entering the Hualing Wu Academy. When the Empress heard this, she became even more anxious. If Qin Yun were to enter the Hualing Wu Academy and accomplish something in the future, it would be a huge hidden danger for her. There were many people in the southern area of the Imperial Palace Square. There was a long queue. The people who came to sign up were all disciples of famous sections. They were all handsome and beautiful, and all of them were dressed in luxurious clothes. Their faces were filled with pride that was commonly seen among disciples of noble families. The moment Qin Yun arrived, he saw Qin Tianyi, whose face was swollen like a roasted pig head. When the Empress saw Qin Tianyi, her face turned cold. Her heart was filled with anger. Her youngest son, Qin Tianyi's talent, was not bad. However, half of his face had been swollen by a piece of trash like Qin Yun. He had even been robbed of 15 spiritual energy pills. Now, he had become the laughingstock of the palace. What infuriated her the most was that if Qin Yun had really broken through to the 4th level of the martial body realm, it was definitely because he had eaten a large number of spiritual energy pills that he was able to break through. Furthermore, 15 of the spiritual energy pills were snatched from her son. This was undoubtedly a great help to Qin Yun. Yuan Yinying was also here. She was dressed in a gorgeous blue dress. At a young age, she was beautiful and noble. She was originally chatting and laughing with others, but when she saw Qin Yun arrive, her expression changed slightly. She did not dare to look at Qin Yun. 10 days ago, she was very certain that it was impossible for Qin Yun to break through. Furthermore, she had asked him to give the spiritual energy pill to Qin Tianyi. But now, Qin Yun had broken through to the 4th level of the martial body realm. This was like a ruthless slap to her face. A guard walked over and whispered to the Empress. They said that if Qin Yun really steps into the 4th level of the martial body realm, he will be qualified to enter the Hualing Wu Academy. When Qin Yun heard that, he quickly walked over. There were 10 teachers who had come to recruit students. The most eye-catching one was a female teacher with long hair that draped over her shoulders and wore white clothes. The female teacher was very beautiful, but her face was ice cold. She seemed to be a very strict teacher. The Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor was also a woman. Qin Yun was more inclined to have a female teacher, so he walked over to the female teacher's side to register. The old officials also rushed over. When they learned that Qin Yun had cultivated his elemental energy they rushed over. When Qin Yun saw the group of old officials arrive, he was infuriated. He secretly swore that when he became stronger in the future, he would definitely make these old fellows pay a painful price. The Empress and the generals and ministers all had solemn expressions as they walked to the side of the female teacher and waited for the results. The female teacher would conduct a simple examination of the students who had signed up. Although she was being watched, she was not affected. She did not even look at the group of powerful ministers. Moments later, it was almost Qin Yun's turn to be interviewed. He had already come to the front and took the opportunity to size up the beautiful teacher. Her face was sparkling, her skin was like jade, and her appearance was extremely beautiful. When she was serious and focused, she was cold and serious. She had a cold and arrogant temperament that was completely natural. A light breeze blew over, causing her hair to flutter. She was cold and arrogant, yet gentle and elegant. Qin Yun could not help but be entranced. Among all the beauties he had seen, only the Grand Preceptor could compare to her. There was a sign on the female teacher's desk with her name and profile written on it. Yang Shiryu, 23 years old, born with 6 meridians, 9th level of the martial body realm, an outstanding student of the Tianxian Martial School. When he saw the introduction of the beautiful teacher, Qin Yun was even more shocked. She was already at the 9th level of the martial body realm in her 20s. If he were to break through again, he would be able to step into another great realm, the martial Dao realm. At that time, he would be able to truly touch upon the great Dao of martial arts. One had to know that in the imperial court of the Tianqian Empire, those insufferably arrogant generals and old officials were all old ruffians in their 70s or 80s. However, they were only at the 8th or 9th level of the martial body realm. There was also the Heavenly Profound Academy. It was an academy that was even more terrifying than the Hua Ling Wu Academy. It was filled with mystery and only accepted people with outstanding talent. Yang Shiryu was at the 9th level of the martial body realm at such a young age. It was very puzzling for her to be a teacher. Next, finally, it was Qin Yun's turn. The Empress, the old officials, and the people from the various aristocratic families immediately perked up. Whether or not Qin Yun was truly at the 4th level of the martial body realm would soon be clear. Yang Shiryu said softly, Qin Yun. Qin Yun said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, I am Qin Yun. I have already cultivated my elemental energy and am a martial artist at the 4th level of the martial body realm. I wish to enter the Hua Ling Wu Academy to cultivate in the martial Dao. Chapter 7. War of the Princes. Qin Yun. If you're really a martial artist at the 4th level martial body realm, you will definitely become a student of the Hua Ling Wu Academy. Although Yang Shiryu's voice was cold, it was very pleasant to hear. Release your inner qi. The most obvious characteristic of the 4th level of the martial body is that your inner qi overflows like a fluorescent light. Qin Yun nodded. After taking a deep breath, he circulated his inner qi and opened his palm, forcing the inner qi out of his palm. Everyone stared at his palm and saw a sparkling mist slowly appearing like a sprout of grass. Everyone burst into laughter at the sight of this weak mist that was as thin as a firefly. What is this? The inner qi that comes out of my fart is stronger than this. Just this little bit of inner qi. I'd better go home and practice for another 8 to 10 years. One needs to cultivate inner yuan to be considered to be at the 4th level of the martial body stage. Does he have inner yuan? Everyone jeered and laughed, constantly mocking and ridiculing him. Qin Yun turned a deaf ear to the mockery of these people. His eyes were filled with sincerity as he looked at Yang Shiryu and said, Teacher, I just condensed my inner yuan this morning. I'm still not familiar with the control of my inner yuan and inner qi. When the Empress heard the commotion from the crowd, she heaved a sigh of relief and sneered. This is just a bit of inner qi that you forced out. You have not stepped into the 4th level of the martial body stage, and it is impossible for you to break through. Don't embarrass yourself. Teacher Yang hasn't even made a decision yet. Why are you in such a hurry? Teacher Yang, was a martial artist at the 9th-level martial body realm at such a young age. This was authority. Are you as strong as Teacher Yang? Are you as beautiful as Teacher Yang? No. Even Teacher Yang's toes are prettier than your face. Qin Yun was fearless as he ridiculed the Empress. It was taboo for a woman to have someone say that she was not as beautiful as the other person, and Qin Yun had even said that the Empress' appearance was worthless in front of everyone. Sure enough, the Empress was so angry that her eyelids twitched and her body trembled. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and dug her nails into her flesh. Her eyes were filled with a sinister light as she roared in her heart. She swore that she would make Qin Yun suffer a fate worse than death. No one doubted Qin Yun's words. The Empress was indeed not as beautiful as Teacher Yang Shiryu, so they remained silent. Qin Yun looked at the silent crowd and said with a sneer, "Did you see that? Everyone thinks that Teacher Yang is prettier than you." Everyone immediately cursed Qin Yun inwardly. They had never admitted to it. Yang Shiryu frowned. Her intelligent and charming eyes narrowed slightly as she stared at Qin Yun. Of course, she could tell what level Qin Yun's inner chi was at. It had indeed reached the 4th level of the martial body realm, but she was a little unsure. Just as everyone had thought, Qin Yun only had one spirit vein. It would be difficult for him to reach the 4th level of the martial body realm in a short period of time. "Give me your hand," Yang Shiryu said softly. Qin Yun acknowledged with a grunt and extended his hand. Yang Shiryu used her 2 delicate fingers to lightly tap on the pulse on Qin Yun's wrist. She could feel his inner yuan through his pulse. After she felt the inner yuan, she said in surprise, "There really is inner yuan in your dantian. You only have one spirit vein, yet you are able to cultivate inner yuan. This is really rare." Qin Yun had truly stepped into the 4th level of the martial body realm. When everyone heard Yang Shiryu's words, they were bewildered. There was an uproar as they began to discuss in low voices. The youths who had mocked Qin Yun earlier felt a burning pain on their faces. It was as if they had been slapped in the face. The Empress' expression was even more unsightly. That was because Qin Yun would be able to enter the Hua Ling Wu Academy and escape from her control of the palace. "Teacher Yang, you must consider it carefully. Qin Yun's previous Grand Preceptor of the Crown Prince was a demoness who cultivated in demonic arts. She might have secretly imparted demonic arts to him, which was why he was able to advance by leaps and bounds. The Hua Ling Wu Academy has inherited the righteous martial way and is respected by others. Don't ruin your reputation because of this. Teacher Yang, please hand over this scourge, Qin Yun, to us to deal with. We guarantee that we will not harm his life. We will only cripple his elemental energy and spirit vein." The old officials walked over one after another. Their evil old faces were filled with hypocritical worry as they advised Yang Shiryu not to accept Qin Yun with a face full of righteousness. When Qin Yun saw the old officials speak of him as an unpardonable evil, his anger immediately surged. He cursed angrily. "In the past 5 years, I've gone through a lot of hardships to cultivate, but you bunch of evil old dogs want to kill me, cripple my elemental energy vein, and ruin my martial path. You are truly a bunch of heartless old beasts. How dare you scold us old officials who have done our best for the country? Quickly take him down." An old official shouted angrily. Just as a few armored men walked over, Yang Shiryu hurriedly stood up and walked to Qin Yun's side. "I can tell if Qin Yun cultivates demonic arts or not. He has passed my assessment and is a student of the Hua Ling Wu Academy." Yang Shiryu's cold voice was filled with dignity. It was obvious that she wanted Qin Yun as her student. When the Empress saw Yang Shiryu protecting Qin Yun, she frowned slightly and said, "Qin Yun only has one spirit vein, but he has cultivated inner yuan. He must have cultivated an evil demonic art to be able to advance by leaps and bounds. In my heavenly Qin Empire, those who cultivate demonic arts will be executed by 1,000 cuts." She insisted that Qin Yun cultivated demonic arts. "Bitch, shut up. I originally had a 5-yang spiritual pulse, so my talent was rare. But because you, a lowly servant, joined forces with this group of evil old dogs to plot against me and the Grand Preceptor, you violently extracted my 4 spirit veins. One of the spirit veins has been successfully fused by your son. The spirit vein was bestowed by the heavens, but it was forcefully taken away by you. You are all evil. Even the people of the demonic Tao might not be able to do such a thing, but you sanctimonious fellows who speak of benevolence and morality have done it. Qin Yin pointed at the Empress and the group of old officials as he circulated his energy and shouted loudly. His angry voice echoed throughout the plaza of the underground palace. The Empress and the group of old officials were so angry that their faces revealed ruthlessness. Their eyes were filled with killing intent, wishing that they could kill Qin Yin on the spot. At that moment, the 4th prince, Qin Tianyi, walked in front of Qin Yin and shouted, "Back then, you used the authority of the crown prince to condone and protect the female Grand Preceptor. That was why she managed to cultivate a demonic art to great success and came to harm our heavenly Qin Empire. You have committed such a heinous crime. It is our kindness to let you live until now. Your spirit vein helped my royal brother achieve the 6 yang spirit vein body. This spirit vein will definitely flourish on my royal brother's body. You should not hold a grudge in your heart." When the old officials heard this, they all praised Qin Tianyi's words. "Ha! Stealing someone's spirit vein is a heartless thing, yet you can actually say it in such a righteous manner. How shameless! Forget it. Help me tell your royal brother to wait. I will definitely take back my spirit vein from him." Qin Yun's angry laughter suddenly turned extremely cold as he said, "I will definitely get back at the person who stole my spirit vein tenfold." Qin Tianyi sneered. "Because of your dogshit luck, you were able to step into the 4th level of the martial body stage. But what can you do? You only have 1 spirit vein, so you are destined to be a martial arts cripple. It will be difficult for you to reach the top. And my royal brother has the 6 yang spirit vein, and is also the crown prince of the empire. A martial arts cripple like you, what right do you have to ask for a spirit vein from my royal brother?" He really overestimated himself. "The reason why I was injured by you in the Spirit Pills Pavilion was because you ambushed me when I was unprepared. This was my negligence." A trace of anger appeared on Qin Tianyi's face as he shouted at Qin Yin. "Today, do you dare to fight me fair and square? You can't even defeat me, so don't even think about defeating my royal brother." Chapter 8. Proud and elated, everyone hurriedly retreated, giving them a wide space to fight. The Empress and the old officials did not stop them. They were very confident in Qin Tianyi. Qin Tianyi had 4 spiritual veins and had sufficient cultivation resources for many years. He was much stronger than Qin Yin in all aspects. 4th prince, you will definitely win against him." The one who spoke was a middle-aged man in black armor. He was General Yuan Yinying's father, and Yuan Yinying was standing beside him. After you defeat him, I will reward you with 20 spiritual energy pills." The Empress's cold eyes flashed with viciousness, hinting that Qin Tianyi had to cripple Qin Yin by hook or by crook. The old officials seemed to have seen Qin Yun's miserable defeat, as all of them revealed complacent smiles. Qin Tianyi had started earlier than Qin Yin. With the support of the Empress and the old officials, he had a lot of cultivation resources, and his foundation was more solid than Qin Yun's. That was why everyone was so confident in him. Let me be the host of this competition. Since it's a martial arts competition, death and injury are inevitable. When the time comes, you can't blame anyone else. Yang sure you did not stop him. This was an opportunity to test Qin Yun's foundation. When she saw that Qin Yun and Qin Tianyi were ready, she shouted softly, "Begin." As soon as the shout fell, Qin Tianyi was the first to attack. His footsteps were steady and his speed was very fast. He charged at Qin Yun like the wind. To be able to do this at such a young age, many seniors secretly nodded in praise. Qin Yun's eagle-like eyes stared at the charging Qin Tianyi. At the same time, he secretly accumulated his inner qi and prepared to use the qi explosion technique. As expected of the Empress's son, He has such a solid foundation at such a young age. His aura is even, his steps are steady, and he is calm. He will definitely become a great person in the future. It seems that Prince Tianyi was indeed attacked by Qin Yun shamelessly. When everyone saw Qin Tianyi's movement technique, they all praised him. After Qin Yun was crippled, he had been neglected for 5 years and had no one to support him from behind. Recently, he had to rely on medicinal pills to make a breakthrough. He also did not have any martial arts cultivation techniques, so he would definitely lose. Daddy, Big Brother Tianyi is really amazing. He's much stronger than me. Yuan Yinying chuckled, her eyes filled with admiration. Of course, my eyesight has never been bad. It's definitely not wrong for you to marry him. Great General Yuan laughed heartily and said, Qin Yun won't live past today. When Qin Yun heard General Yuan's words, he was infuriated. Yuan Yinying had been treated by the Grand Preceptor back then, but in order to curry favor with the Empress, he had forgotten this favor. When Qin Tianyi rushed towards Qin Yun, he could not help but feel elated when he heard everyone's praises. Then, when he saw Qin Yun standing there motionlessly with openings, he felt even more disdain. As for the inner qi that Qin Yun had accumulated for a long time, it had already surged to his arm. The inner qi of the 4th level of the martial body realm was even stronger and thicker. The powerful force brought about by the inner qi caused his fists to tremble slightly. Thump, thump, thump. Qin Tianyi walked over with steady steps. When he approached Qin Yun, his speed suddenly increased, and he leaped in front of Qin Yun in an instant. Hula! The inner qi in Qin Tianyi's fist surged out, emitting a hoo-hoo sound as it charged towards Qin Yun's face. Such a smooth attack made everyone exclaim in admiration. In contrast, Qin Yun seemed to be so frightened that he couldn't move, making people feel that he was much weaker. Bang! Qin Yun's face suffered a heavy punch. His head tilted to the side, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He did not dodge at all and use his own face to receive Qin Tianyi's heavy punch. Prince Tianyi's speed is too fast. Qin Yun doesn't even have time to dodge. So weak, someone exclaimed. Qin Tianyi succeeded and was secretly pleased with himself. He looked at Yuan Yinying and smiled proudly. At that moment, Qin Yun's body trembled as his bones emitted a thunderous sound. The inner qi that he had been accumulating for a long time surged into his fist, producing a strong, explosive force. When Qin Tianyi reacted, it was already too late. Qin Yun's fist was like a thunderclap as his inner qi was like a violent gale. It was like a ferocious bolt of lightning striking Qin Tianyi's abdomen, causing a boom that resounded through the sky. Qin Tianyi let out a blood-curdling scream as he spat out blood. He covered his abdomen with both hands and knelt on the ground. Immediately after, Qin Yun's thigh flew up. The wind from his leg whistled, as if it was tearing through the air, kicking towards Qin Tianyi's chin. Qin Yun had actually won. The people who had praised Qin Tianyi earlier were all dumbfounded. They could not believe what had just happened. No one had expected Qin Yun to take the punch head-on in order to distract Qin Tianyi. Then, he would seize the opportunity to launch a thunderous counterattack. After Qin Tianyi punched Qin Yun, he was indeed very pleased with himself. He believed that Qin Yun would be powerless to retaliate. However, not only did Qin Yun retaliate, his strength was also astonishing. The surroundings were silent. The young disciples of the famous sects looked at the dying Qin Tianyi on the ground. They were also at the 4th level of the martial body realm, but their strength was not that terrifying. A few old officials rushed over and checked on Qin Tianyi's injuries. Their faces immediately turned ashen. His elemental energy has dissipated and his spirit veins have been severely damaged. An old official glared at Qin Yun. How delightful! Although Qin Yun's mouth was bleeding, he still laughed maniacally. The son of the heavenly Qin Empress, who had a noble status, had been crippled just like that. Furthermore, he had been crippled by Qin Yun. This was inconceivable. Yuan Yinying's beautiful eyes widened as she stood there in a daze. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Qin Tianyi had just been praised by others and was believed to have a high chance of winning. But now he had been crippled. She looked at the proud Qin Yun with a complicated expression. She bit her lips. The person she had looked down on had actually become so powerful. Yang Shiyu frowned. Qin Yun's strength shocked her. At that moment, she decided to make Qin Yun her student. Qin Yun, you are so ruthless. It was just an ordinary spar, yet you were so ruthless. You deliberately injured a prince with a limitless future. Quickly take down this villain. The Empress was extremely furious. Her ice-cold voice was trembling. He kept saying that I'm trash, but he lost to me. He's not even as good as me. Yet he said that he has a limitless future. I'll leave him with his dog life. You shouldn't hold a grudge. Qin Yun used Qin Tianyi's words to retaliate against the queen. Qin Yun died. An old red-clothed official behind the Empress suddenly roared and released a thick wave of inner qi that formed a shockwave that charged at Qin Yun. Bang! The shockwave exploded when it struck Qin Yun's body, forcing him back a few steps as he spat out a large mouthful of blood. The red-clothed old official took a few steps forward and arrived in front of Qin Yun. He raised his palm and was about to strike when he saw Yang Shiyu suddenly appear in a flash and stand in front of Qin Yun. He's my student. If you want to kill him, you have to pass through me first. Yang Shiyu's voice was cold, and her killing intent was oppressive. She released an invisible wave of inner qi to block the red-clothed old official's palm that was about to land. Yang Shiyu and the red-clothed old official were circulating their inner force and fighting through the air. Chapter 9. Hualing Wu Academy, Teacher Yang. Qin Yun's strength is so terrifying and his attacks are so vicious. This is not normal. If you take this devil as your disciple, even you will suffer a calamity. Please let go and hand over this disciple of the devil Dao. I will only cripple his elemental energy and spirit veins and will not harm his life. The red-clothed old official was at the 9th level of the martial body stage and had cultivated for 60 to 70 years. However, the young woman in front of him had a cultivation that was on par with his. I can naturally tell if Qin Yun cultivates demonic arts or not. If there are any consequences, I am willing to bear it. Yang Shiyu stood in front of Qin Yun. As she was fighting with the red-clothed old official, she suddenly felt a gust of wind sweep past her. Qin Yun was like a swift and fierce leopard as he charged at the red-clothed old official. He slapped him hard in the face. Old bastard! Qin Yun roared angrily as his explosive palm exploded like a thunderbolt. It was deafening. The red-clothed old official did not expect that Qin Yun, who had been injured by his inner qi, would still have such terrifying strength. His face was burning with pain from the slap. He was a martial artist at the 9th level martial body realm and a highly respected old official. He had actually been slapped in public. Not only did this cause him to lose face, the worst thing was that he was fighting with someone and was suddenly interrupted, causing the internal energy in his dantian to become chaotic. He had no choice but to stop and retreat before circulating his energy to heal his injuries. Everyone was alarmed when they saw this. They could not help but admire Qin Yun's courage. Even at this stage, he still had to use all his strength to slap the red-clothed old official. As the saying goes, don't hit a person's face. The red-clothed old official had also suffered great humiliation. A few old officials rushed over and channeled their inner qi to suppress the red-clothed old official's injuries. However, he still spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. He looked like he was severely injured. Qin Yun, are you all right? Yang Shiyu cried out softly. She did not expect Qin Yun to suddenly attack. 5 years ago, Qin Yun, was only 10 years old. I was a weak child and did not have the strength to resist you. But now it's different. I'm a martial artist at the 4th level of the martial body stage. Although my strength is far inferior to you evil demons, as long as I still have a breath left, I will never lower my head to you, and I will never retreat. Qin Yun's voice was impassioned. It carried a very wild aura. It caused people to feel alarmed. A few old officials discussed something in low voices with the Empress, who had an ugly expression. The Empress, who was in a fit of anger, suddenly gave a long sigh as though she had endured it. They had almost clashed with Yang Shiryu just now. If this continued, it would only intensify the conflict. They did not dare to provoke the Hua Lingwu Academy. Yang Shiryu's body looked delicate, but she stood in front of Qin Yun like a tall mountain. She swept her gaze across the Empress and the others and said with a sneer, "In the battle between Qin Yun and Qin Tianyi, Qin Yun won with his strength. As for all of you, you are unconvinced. You even allowed an elder at the 9th level of the martial body realm to attack a junior. You brought this upon yourselves." Qin Yun clutched his aching chest and coughed a few times. He said, "They can even bear to lay their hands on a 10-year-old child. They are capable of doing all sorts of crazy things." The Empress looked at Qin Yun with a ferocious gaze that was filled with ice-cold, killing intent. She said, "Forget it. The Hua Lingwu Academy can protect you for a moment, but it can't protect you forever. The matter of you crippling this Empress will not let it go." When she saw how protective Yang Shiryu was towards Qin Yun, she could only put the matter aside for the time being. No matter which power it was, unless they had no other choice, they did not want to become enemies with the powerful martial arts academy. This meant war. Today, all the martial arts families of the Heavenly Qin Empire are here. I will also use this opportunity to announce a major event. An old official said. Something big? What was it? Just as everyone was feeling curious, they heard the old official say, "More than 10 years ago, the Tian Shao Empire and the Tianqin Empire had secretly arranged a marriage between Princess Yulan and Qin Yun. Now, the two countries have discussed this matter again and decided to cancel their engagement. Although the engagement has been canceled, everyone does not have to worry about the relationship between the two countries. This is because the Tian Shao Empire has already agreed to let Princess Yulan and the newly established Crown Prince be engaged. Therefore, this is a great thing for us." Xiao Yuelan was the princess of the Tian Shao Empire. Not only was her appearance peerless, her martial talent was even more astonishing. She possessed the 7-yang spirit vein and was only 16 years old this year. She had been recruited into the Tian Xin martial school, and because of this, her name had spread far and wide. However, no one knew that such a devastatingly beautiful girl had actually been engaged to Qin Yun. Fortunately, it had been cancelled. Otherwise, no one would be able to accept Xiao Yuelan marrying a cripple like Qin Yun. Qin Yun did not say a word. He pretended to be at a loss, making people think that he did not know about this matter. In fact, he had known for a long time that there was an engagement contract in his bag. It was left to him by the Grand Preceptor before he left. The Empress sneered. Qin Yun's 4 spirit veins have been extracted, and his position as crown prince has been abolished. If Princess Yulan marries him, it will definitely damage the prestige of the two empires. Qin Yun's expression was calm, but he was very unhappy in his heart. He still had some impression of the Tianqin Empire's Princess Yulan. He had seen her a few times when he was young. At that time, he had addressed Princess Yulan as little sister. However, in his impression, Princess Yulan was petite and weak. Her haggard appearance was very lovable. This was a matter from 10 years ago. The Empress smiled coldly and said, "A year later, Princess Yulan will come to our imperial palace to hold a grand engagement ceremony with the crown prince. Qin Yun, if you're still alive at that time, you must come and participate in this grand event." Qin Yun secretly gritted his teeth and said, "I will definitely participate." He could accept the cancellation of the engagement. After all, he did not have any feelings for Xiao Yuelan. However, after the engagement was canceled, he could not accept Xiao Yuelan remarrying the son of the Viper Empress. He had the talent of the 9 Sun Spirit Vein and firmly believed that he would have enough strength to mess up the engagement ceremony. Everyone was secretly thinking about this matter. Thinking about it carefully, Qin Yun had been crippled, and the Empress had obtained the greatest benefit. Her son had become the crown prince and successfully fused with Qin Yun's spirit vein. As for Princess Yulan, who was originally Qin Yun's fiancée, She would also be engaged to the new crown prince. At this moment, everyone was even more convinced that Qin Yun and the Grand Preceptor had been framed. A grand engagement ceremony will definitely invite the famous families of both countries to witness it, an old official announced loudly. Everyone was looking forward to the engagement ceremony in a year's time. If Qin Yun came, with his personality, he would definitely put on a big show. At the same time, they would also be able to see Princess Yulan's peerless beauty. Yang Shiyu's eyes flickered as if she was thinking of something. She said softly to Qin Yun, "I'll bring you back to the Hualingwu Academy to heal your injuries first. You still have to awaken your martial spirit in the afternoon." Chapter 10. Martial Spirit. The Cloud Dragon Mountain Range was more than 200 miles away from Tianqin Imperial City. Within the mountain range, strange peaks were like a forest, towering and lofty. They were enveloped by a vast ocean of mist. A raging river traversed the mountain range like a raging dragon. The Hualingwu Academy was located outside the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range, beside the Cloud Dragon River. It was surrounded by huge stone walls, looking like an ancient city. From afar, it looked like a ferocious tiger crouching beside the Cloud Dragon River, exuding a majestic aura. After the carriage drove through the main entrance of the Hualingwu Academy, magnificent and tall buildings could be seen everywhere. There were groups of pavilions and palaces, and there were countless gardens. The Imperial Palace was nothing more than this. The carriage arrived at a large courtyard on the west side of the Hualingwu Academy and stopped at the entrance. Yang Shiyu woke Qin Yun up and asked, "Can you walk by yourself?" "Yes." The Nine Suns' spiritual energy that Qin Yun absorbed through the Nine-Pearl Bracelet has a very good effect on nourishing his body and healing his internal injuries. He is much better now, but his face is still somewhat pale. Yang Shiyu was about to help Qin Yun up when she saw him jump off the carriage. She could not help but exclaim, "You've recovered quite well." Qin Yun felt somewhat guilty and said, "Teacher, I have caused you trouble. The tuition fee for this semester is 20,000 crystal coins. I'll pay for you for now. You owe me. The Hualingwu Academy is very strict. If you're unable to pass the final exam, you'll have to drop out. Before that, you must return the crystal coins to me." Yang Shiyu's serious expression caused Qin Yun's heart to tremble. 20,000 crystal coins was not a small amount, but he firmly believed that he would be able to gather it within the semester. "I'll take you to the classroom to rest first. When the rest of the students arrive, we'll begin to awaken our martial souls." Yang Shiyu brought Qin Yun into the courtyard. There were many classrooms inside. The innermost classroom was the one led by Yang Shiyu. There were already a dozen or so students in the classroom. Most of them were the descendants of ministers and generals of the imperial court, or the outstanding descendants of various martial arts families. They were all carefully selected by Yang Shiyu. Many of them recognized Qin Yun. The students who knew Qin Yun were all astonished. They had come to the Spiritual Martial Academy earlier and did not know what had happened in the square of the Imperial Palace. The moment Qin Yun entered, he was met with all sorts of gazes. Mockery, doubt, disdain, surprise. He turned a blind eye to all of this. His experiences over the past few years had made him even steadier. "In the afternoon, I will help you awaken your martial souls. Wait here patiently for my return. Remember, no matter how illustrious the families behind you are, as long as you cause trouble here, you will have to pay a heavy price." Yang Shiyu's voice was stern and ice-cold. It contained an oppressive aura, causing people to not dare to doubt her words. After she left the classroom, the frightened students all let out a sigh of relief. The Hualingwu Academy was very powerful. There was a mysterious power supporting it from the shadows. Even the Tianqin Empire did not dare to casually provoke it. Those young and vigorous students did not dare to be arrogant at this moment. They all obediently sat in their seats, waiting for Yang Shiryu to return. In the afternoon, the enrollment ended. There were a total of 20 students in Yang Shiryu's class. Now, let's begin awakening the martial spirit. As soon as Yang Shiryu entered the classroom, all the students stood up. Her serious expression made everyone nervous. Awakening the martial spirit was the most crucial step in martial arts. It would affect one's future martial arts career, which was one of the reasons why the students were so nervous. Sit down. Yang Shiryu's stern gaze swept across, and she nodded. Then, she took out a small pagoda that looked like it was carved out of crystal and carefully placed it on the podium. She placed her hand on the crystal pagoda and said, "This is the spirit pagoda. It can awaken the martial spirit in a person's body. After the martial spirit awakens, the spirit pagoda will light up. The higher the quality of the martial spirit, the different colors of the spirit pagoda. There are brass, silver, gold, platinum, and purple gold. There are a total of 5 stages of martial spirits. Teacher Yang, what stage of martial spirit is considered qualified?" A student raised his hand and asked. Yang Shiryu nodded and said, "A silver martial spirit is considered qualified, a gold martial spirit is even better, and a platinum martial spirit is the best. As for a purple gold martial spirit, people who can awaken a martial spirit of this level are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns." Teacher, what stage is your martial spirit? A young girl asked doubtfully. Yang Shiryu's jade-like face suddenly revealed a trace of pride as she placed her jade-like hands on the spirit pagoda. The originally exquisite and translucent crystal pagoda suddenly emitted an intense white gold light, causing one's eyes to feel a stabbing pain. This is a platinum martial spirit. After her jade-like hands left the spirit pagoda, the dazzling white gold light immediately disappeared. Seeing the rare platinum martial spirit, everyone was extremely surprised. They hoped that they also had a martial spirit of this level. All of you, start awakening your martial spirits now. Yang Shiryu held a booklet and shouted, "Wang Xiaojiang." A short and skinny youth raised his head and puffed out his chest as he confidently walked up. Wang Xiaojiang placed his hands on the spirit pagoda and asked, and then, "Close your eyes and relax your entire body." Yang Shiryu said. Wang Xiaojiang immediately closed his eyes and relaxed his entire body. Very quickly, a cool feeling surged through his entire body. A cool breeze blew out from the small window of the spirit pagoda. The spirit pagoda also began to light up. It was a faint silver light, far less dazzling than Yang Shiryu's. "It's the silver wind martial spirit, not bad." Yang Shiryu nodded in satisfaction and took out the pen to record it down. Wang Xiaojiang was very pleased with his beautiful teacher's exaggeration. He swaggered back to his seat. The next person to go up for the test was a young girl in a red dress. She looked rather cute, but her eyes were filled with pride. However, she could not be arrogant in front of Yang Shiryu. "Tang Qingyu, let's begin," Yang Shiryu said. Very quickly, Tang Qingyu's results came out. The small window of the spirit pagoda overflowed with water droplets that shone with a silver light. This was a silver water martial spirit. It was not bad. Yang Shiryu nodded in satisfaction. The students that Yang Shiryu had chosen had awakened 2 silver martial spirits in a row. They were all considered qualified. After the 3rd student went up, intense flames spewed out from the window of the small pagoda. The spirit pagoda turned golden. This was the gold fire martial spirit. Yin Zhongming, gold fire martial spirit. Very good. A smile appeared on Yang Shiryu's cold and charming face. The tall youth laughed complacently. That was because he, Yin Zhongming, had a gold martial spirit. It was the best martial spirit to awaken. Luo Qinghao, silver fire martial spirit. Ma Hongming, silver ice martial spirit. After testing more than a dozen students, most of them had silver martial spirits and only 1 gold martial spirit. And there was not a single platinum martial spirit. It was indeed very rare. "Yi Wei Xian, it's your turn," Yang Shiryu shouted, her eyes revealing a trace of anticipation. "Yi Wei Xian? I heard that everyone in the Yi family has a thunder martial spirit. This is a very powerful martial spirit. I wonder what rank it is." Thunder martial spirit. You can tell that it's very powerful just by hearing it. The martial spirits that we awakened before were all relatively common ice, wind, water, fire, and earth. They're all things that can be found on the streets. The students exclaimed in a low voice. When Yi Wei-xian saw how much everyone was looking forward to him, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He revealed a proud smile and strode up to the podium. After he touched the spirit pagoda with both hands, lightning flashed out of the small window of the spirit pagoda. The most surprising thing was that the spirit pagoda flickered with a golden light. Gold, thunder, martial spirit. Yang Shiyu was slightly shocked and said, "The Yi family truly lives up to its reputation. Thank you for your praise, teacher. I will definitely use my martial spirit well." Yi Weishuan's face was filled with a proud smile. Chapter 11. Mysterious Black Yi Wei-xian was secretly unhappy and thought to himself, "What good martial soul can a person of the same bloodline have?" Everyone also felt that Qin Yun was at most an elemental martial spirit that could be found on the streets. There was nothing to look forward to. In addition to the elemental martial spirit, there were also weapon martial spirits, namely saber, sword, spear, hammer, axe, and beast martial spirit. These two types were rare. Apart from that, there were also some rare martial spirits known as legendary martial spirits. For example, the space martial spirit, the time martial spirit, the life martial spirit, the transformation martial spirit, and so on. It was obvious that the students Yang Shi Yu had chosen all had elemental martial spirits. "I have nothing to look forward to." Qin Yun smiled faintly. He did not care about his martial spirit. Yang Shi Yu said, "Under normal circumstances, people with one spirit vein would give up on cultivating martial arts because it's too difficult and it's difficult to condense inner yuan. However, only by condensing inner yuan could he awaken his martial spirit. Therefore, people with one spirit vein rarely reach the standard to awaken their martial spirit. There's an ancient book that says that after a person awakens their martial spirit, the rank of their martial spirit will be very high, at least platinum rank." Now, everyone understood why Yang Shi was looking forward to it so much. It was because Qin Yun was in such a rare situation. She wanted to personally see if it was true. Qin Yun looked at Yang Shi's charming and beautiful eyes and saw a hint of fanaticism. He thought to himself, could it be that Teacher Yang is researching something? The reason why a person with such high qualifications like Yang Shi would come here to be a teacher was most likely because she wanted to study martial spirits. Qin Yun is also looking forward to his martial spirit. He said, "I hope that the record is true." Just as he stretched out his hands to touch the spirit pagoda, a loud boom suddenly came from outside, causing everyone's eardrums to ring. This kind of movement, could it be a legendary martial spirit? When a martial spirit awakens to release such a strong sound wave, it is very likely that it is a sound wave martial spirit. Yang Shiyu's face was filled with shock as she rushed out of the classroom. It came from the class next door. The legendary martial spirit had actually appeared in the classroom next door. Everyone hurriedly rushed out. This was a rare sight, and they could brag about it in the future if they went to take a look. Only Qin Yun was still in the classroom. His hands had already touched the spirit pagoda. The spirit tower suddenly shook slightly, and the small window spewed out flames. What's going on? Were these flames and vibrations? The flame was the fire martial spirit. The other one is the vibration martial spirit. Is this also a legendary martial spirit? Qin Yun was alarmed as he immediately sensed the vibrating power and flame power that entered his body. The two forces entered the inner yuan in his dantian, like two clusters of translucent flames. This was a young martial spirit that had just awakened. Dual martial spirits? While Qin Yun was shocked, he was overjoyed. He closed his eyes and taught himself without a teacher. He used his mind to control the martial spirit that was trembling like a small flame in his inner yuan. This should be the vibration martial spirit, a legendary martial spirit. What level is it? Qin Yun opened his eyes. When he saw the spirit pagoda, he was so frightened that a chill ran down his spine. The spirit pagoda was actually black. It was terrifyingly dark, so dark that it made one's scalp go numb, and the spirit-reaching pagoda was also shaking nonstop, as if it was going to shatter at any time. What rank was the pure black spirit pagoda? The highest was only purple gold. Damn, what the hell is a black martial spirit? Qin Yun himself was frightened. He took a deep breath and retracted his hand. He was worried that the spirit pagoda would shatter. The people who went to the next class also came back, and they all sighed at what they had seen and heard in the classroom next door. What a freak, a silver-ranked sound wave martial spirit. That is a legendary martial spirit. With his 4 sons' spiritual pulse and legendary martial spirit, his future is limitless. That guy is from the Jiang family. This time, the Jiang family is in trouble. Is this the first time a legendary martial soul has appeared in our Tianqin Empire? Ahead of the Tian Shao Empire. This should be the first time it has appeared. The students came back with faces full of shock and exclaimed continuously. The Tian Shao Empire had a legendary martial spirit for a long time. The one who recently awakened a legendary martial spirit was Xiao Yuelon. Yang Shiyue's words stunned everyone. Why hadn't they heard of it? Xiao Yuelon is not here to awaken her martial spirit. Of course you don't know. Yang Shiyu said before glancing at Qin Yun. Xiao Yuelon was Qin Yun's ex-fiancée. She suddenly thought of something and asked, Qin Yun, have you awakened your martial spirit? Of course I've awakened it. It's a fire martial spirit. Qin Yun did not know the grade of his fire martial spirit. He planned to hide the black vibration martial spirit first. When everyone heard that it was a common fire martial spirit, they all lost interest. Compared to the sound wave martial spirit next door, it was simply too inferior. Yang Shiryu said, Qin Yun, place your hand on the spirit pagoda and let the fire martial spirit absorb the inner qi. What Qin Yun had done just now had caused the spirit pagoda to turn a terrifying black color. All right. Qin Yun secretly looked forward to the grade of his fire martial spirit as he placed his hands on the spirit pagoda. Under everyone's gaze, the transparent spirit pagoda suddenly flashed with a purple light. Purple gold flames spewed out from the windows of the small pagoda, almost blinding the eyes of the students. Purple gold martial spirit. It was actually a purple gold ranked fire martial spirit. The light was even more dazzling than Yang Shiyu's platinum martial spirit. Purple gold. Yang Shiyu took a deep breath, her jade-like face filled with pleasant surprise. This was even more shocking than when she saw the sound wave martial spirit. Is this very powerful? Qin Yun asked in surprise. Yang Shiyu looked at Qin Yun with eyes filled with joy. She slowly nodded and said, Of course, the purple gold fire martial spirit is very powerful. The martial soul could bestow internal qi with the power of attribute and strengthen it at the same time. The higher the grade of the martial spirit, the stronger the inner qi. With the same level of inner qi, if the purple gold martial spirit was released, it would be at least half as strong as the platinum martial spirit. If it was used well, it would be twice as strong. A silver or gold ranked martial spirit is much weaker than a purple gold ranked martial spirit. Yin Zhongming, who had awakened the golden fire martial spirit, said disdainfully, he only has one spirit vein and his martial talent is very poor. It's difficult for him to raise his cultivation. No matter how good his martial spirit is, it's useless. Everyone nodded in agreement. It was difficult to raise one's cultivation with a one-sun spiritual pulse. No matter how good one's martial soul was, it could not change one's talent. What a waste of such a good martial spirit. Purple gold martial spirit, let me take a look. It's not bad. If he had a 3-sun spirit vein, then it would be heaven-defying. What a pity. Looks like Yi Weishuan's golden thunder martial spirit is the strongest. Everyone began to mock and ridicule him. Now, Yang Shiryu is certain that a person with a single spirit vein would have a very high-grade martial spirit. This was not a rumor. It was just that she did not understand why it was like this. Qin Yun also had the mysterious black vibration martial spirit. After careful consideration, he decided to hide this matter. After all, He had yet to figure out what black represented. Otherwise, he would be mistaken for a demon or something. The students present did not think highly of him, but he did not care. Chapter 12. Inscriptions. I'll now tell you how to use the inner force mental cultivation method after awakening your martial spirit. Through the martial spirit's inner yuan, you can condense spiritual energy. Yang Shiryu immediately began her lecture. Everyone took note of it seriously. After she finished speaking, she asked the students to ask questions about the parts they didn't understand. These students all came from prestigious families and had a good foundation. Even if there was something they didn't understand, as long as they were given some guidance, they would immediately understand. After the students finished asking their questions, Yang Shiryu continued her lecture. If there are no other questions regarding the cultivation of mental strength, then I will begin to talk about the main points of cultivating inner force mental cultivation methods. Only after awakening the martial spirit could one cultivate the inner force mental cultivation method. The main purpose of the inner force mental cultivation method was to cultivate the inner yuan and inner qi. It was very important for martial arts cultivation. It could allow the inner yuan and the martial spirit to complement each other and cultivate the inner qi of the attribute. And martial techniques could explode the power contained within one's inner yuan. A good martial technique could perfectly display the power within one's inner yuan to the extreme, allowing a martial artist to become even stronger. Martial techniques and inner force mental cultivation methods were collectively referred to as martial arts. They were divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels, which were relatively common. Above them, there were even stronger ones, and very rarely, they were the spirit grade, profound grade, and earth grade. Each grade was further divided into lower and upper grades. After Yang Shiryu finished speaking, she let the students ask questions that they did not understand. When she saw Qin Yun raise his hand, she asked, "Qin Yun, is there a problem?" Qin Yun said anxiously, "Teacher, I don't have an inner force cultivation method. What should I do?" Inner force mantra was very important. Only after condensing inner yuan would the family pass on the inner force mantra. This was to prevent young people who were eager for quick success and instant benefits from cultivating when their foundation was not stable, which would lead to qi deviation and disastrous consequences. Qin Yun's breakthrough was too hasty. He didn't have the time to learn the inner force cultivation method of the Tianqin royal family. When the students heard this, they all laughed out loud. The heavenly Qin royal family's Qin spirit art is a high-grade spirit-level inner force mental cultivation method. It's a pity that it's not fated with you. Without an inner force mental cultivation method, this can be considered as crippled. Sigh, how pitiful. After he closed his eyes and released this bit of mental force, he could sense things within a meter of him. It was just that it was rather blurry and not clear enough. My mental force is out of control. What's going on? Qin Yun was alarmed. For some reason, his mental force suddenly went out of control and entered the 9-pearl bracelet. He only felt a slight tremble in his head before an empty space appeared in his mind. At the same time, there was a string of information that allowed him to know the name of the 9-pearl bracelet. 9 Yang, Divine Spirit. This is a storage space? Qin Yun shouted in his heart. Not only could the 9 Yang Divine Spirit absorb the 9 suns' spiritual energy, it also had a storage space inside. This sudden discovery made him ecstatic. Storage spirit artifacts were very expensive. They cost at least 1,000,000 crystal coins, and they weren't easy to buy. A storage space the size of a room isn't small either. Qin Yun carefully observed the storage space. In the future, he would be able to store anything good in it. Bamboo slips? After he put his bag in, he saw 3 bamboo slips in a corner of the storage space. Bamboo slips were very ancient items. Now, they were all made of paper. With a thought, the 3 bamboo slips immediately appeared in his hand. When he saw the contents, Qin Yun exclaimed in surprise, "Spirit inscriptions." He hurriedly opened the other 2 scrolls. After taking a closer look, he was deeply shocked by the contents inside. 36 spirit inscriptions, 18 Xian inscriptions, and 9 Dao inscriptions. Qin Yin took a few deep breaths before he could calm his agitated heart. Spirit inscriptions, Xian inscriptions, and Dao inscriptions were created by the ancients through observing the celestial phenomena at night and observing the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. They were extremely profound and mysterious. After the ancients comprehended it, they carved the patterns on their weapons and armors, making them stronger. From then on, spirit artifacts with all sorts of miraculous abilities appeared. Later on, they were used to set up formations, allowing them to set up a variety of array formations and enchantments. Spirit inscriptions were used to refine spirit artifacts. Xian inscriptions were used to refine even more powerful Xian artifacts, and Dao inscriptions were used to refine Dao artifacts that were comparable to the power of the great Dao laws. It was said that the Tianqin Empire had never produced a Dao artifact. Spirit inscriptions, Xian inscriptions, and Dao inscriptions were collectively known as inscriptions. They were controlled by a small number of powers, and the few spirit inscriptions that circulated among the people were all very ordinary, basic spirit inscriptions. I've obtained so many rare inscriptions. I'll definitely become an inscription master. Qin Yin was secretly excited. I must keep this a secret. If others find out that I have mastered Xian and Dao inscriptions, it will definitely cause a bloody storm. The vast majority of people did not have the chance to learn spirit inscriptions. Even many great powers yearned to master precious inscriptions. Now that Qin Yin had obtained 3 scrolls of inscriptions, it was an opportunity to become an inscription master. If it was before, he would not have dared to think of such a thing. Chapter 13. Banzhan. Right now, I can only figure out the inscriptions myself. I can't tell anyone else. Qin Yin carefully observed the 9 Yang Divine Spirit once again. The 9 Yang Divine Spirit has 9 beads. My mental strength is not strong enough, so I can only open the first bead for now. The easiest bead to open already had so many mysterious runes. The other 8 beads that were even harder to open might have even better things. This made Qin Yin want to become stronger as soon as possible and open the other 8 beads. I'll start cultivating the Black Yang art now. I want to become stronger as soon as possible. Qin Yin began to memorize the Black Yang art that Yang Shiryu had given him. He had cultivated mental force, so his memory had improved by a lot. He could quickly memorize it. In this book, there were detailed annotations from Yang Shiryu. Qin Yin also memorized it in passing. It would help him understand this cultivation technique. After memorizing it, he followed the mantra and circulated his inner qi rhythmically, allowing it to flow through his entire body. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, or sometimes still. During the initial stages of cultivating an inner force cultivation method, the main point was to activate the inner yuan and make it beat like a heart. This meant that the inner force cultivation method had reached the initial stage. After the inner yuan beat, it could push the inner qi to circulate rapidly in the body. It could refine the inner qi and make it more vigorous. Yang Shiryu had said that it would take at least 10 days for the inner yuan to beat. Some people would even need 2 or 3 months to do so. However, after Qin Yin cultivated the Black Yang art late into the night, he suddenly felt the inner yuan in his dantian throbbing. He did not know what was going on, but he had been cultivating according to the Black Yang art. His inner yuan had unknowingly begun to throb. After he recovered from his shock, he carefully felt the pulsing inner yuan. Soon, Qin Yin realized that every time his inner yuan pulsed, inner qi would surge out violently, pushing the inner qi in his meridians to circulate rapidly through his body. When the inner yuan contracted, it would also absorb a large amount of 9 suns' spiritual energy into his body. The 9 suns' spiritual energy entered his body and rapidly flowed through his body. In an instant, it turned into inner qi and then entered his inner yuan. After being refined by his inner yuan, it turned into an incomparably pure inner qi. After a few hours, Qin Yun's body was covered in mist. The surrounding 9 suns' spiritual energy constantly entered his body. His inner qi surged like waves as it surged through his body, nourishing his body. The inner yuan absorbed more and more inner qi. Not only was it growing stronger, but it could also store more inner qi. A high-level inner force mental cultivation method is already so powerful. If it's a higher-level inner force mental cultivation method combined with my 9 yang divine spirit, wouldn't it be heaven-defying? Qin Yun clenched his fist. Only a better cultivation technique can make good use of a 9 yang divine spirit and the purple gold martial spirit. The martial spirit was located in the inner qi. The stronger the inner qi, the stronger the martial spirit, and the stronger the inner qi. The 3 were closely linked and complemented each other. Through the purple gold fire martial spirit, Qin Yun had cultivated a powerful inner yuan. The next morning, Qin Yun woke up naturally. When he opened his eyes, he realized that his body was in excellent condition. His inner qi was much stronger. He immediately looked at his dantian and discovered that his dantian was surrounded by a thick white mist. His inner yuan was even brighter, like a pearl. Let's see if we can release flames. After he controlled his inner qi to pass through the purple gold fire martial spirit, his inner qi seemed to have been ignited. Then, he hurriedly forced the ignited flame out of his palm. Success! He looked at the weak flame in his palm and said with a smile, "Maybe it's because my inner qi is still not enough. Otherwise, it would be purple fire." Qin Yun was looking forward to the moment when he could release the purple flames. As for the black vibration martial spirit, he did not know what to do. The only thing he could be sure of was that the vibration martial spirit could bring him great power. My roommates haven't come back for the entire night. What are they doing? Whatever, let's go to the freshman competition first. After washing up and filling his stomach, he hurried to the classroom. Yang Shi, you had said that they would gather in the classroom first. The freshmen that the Hua Ling Wu Academy had recruited this year could be said to be filled with talents. The Jiang family had produced a disciple with a legendary martial spirit. This was the most shocking. In addition, there were also the rarer sword martial spirit and tiger martial spirit. They were all disciples of large clans. As for Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial spirit, it also caused many people to exclaim in admiration. It looked like it had the potential to turn the tables, so it was also the focus of discussion among the martial arts school students. Qin Yun rushed to the classroom. He was the only student there. Yang Shi stood on the podium. Her beautiful face was ice cold, as if she was suppressing her anger. The moment Qin Yun entered the classroom, he felt Yang Shi's formless anger pressing down on him. It made him feel somewhat afraid. He asked softly, "Teacher, am I late?" Yang Shi was expressionless as she said coldly, "From now on, you are the only student in my class." What's going on? Could it be? Are they all dead? Qin Yun asked in surprise. He really thought so, because he was the only one in the dormitory. They've changed classes. It was decided last night. Yang Shi's expression was very ugly. The students she had chosen all had good aptitudes, but they had agreed to change classes together last night. Qin Yun recalled the situation last night and hurriedly said, "Teacher, I saw them being called away last night, and they didn't come back for the entire night." Yang Shi suppressed her anger, but her face was still covered in frost. She said, "Qin Yun, don't worry. Even if you're the only student, I will continue teaching you." Qin Yun nodded slightly. He suspected that the Empress was the one behind the transfer. Most of the students in this class came from the famous nobles of the Heavenly Qin Empire. As for the Empress, she was the only one who had the ability to cover the sky in the Heavenly Qin Empire. Come, let's go to the martial arts practice grounds to participate in the freshman competition. Yang Shi angrily walked out of the classroom. It was impossible for her not to be angry when her dignity was provoked. In the middle of the Hua Ling Wu Academy, there was a spacious martial arts practice field. Nearly 400 freshmen arrived at the martial arts practice field one after another. class by class. They lined up and waited for the meeting. When the students who had changed classes saw Yang Shiryu arrive, they didn't dare to look at her. Their eyes were evasive. They had changed classes due to the pressure from their families. Many older students were watching from the side of the square, as if they were waiting for a good show to happen. Their faces were filled with anticipation. After the freshman competition began, an old man, surnamed Zhang, Principal Zhang, began to speak a lot of nonsense before announcing the end of the freshman competition. The Hualing Wu Academy had officially begun this semester. At this moment, the classes had also been determined. There were a total of 16 freshman classes. Yang Shiryu's class was the 9th class, and it also had the least number of people. Qin Yun was the only student. On the stage, Principal Zhang suddenly shouted, "Now let the new class battle begin. Teachers of each class, come up and draw lots to determine your opponent." Class battle? Qin Yun was taken aback. He suddenly understood why Yang Shiryu was so angry. It was obvious that this class battle required many people to work together to win, and right now, Class 9 only had one student. Chapter 14. Initial Success in Cultivation Technique. Teacher, is this class battle important? If it's not important, we don't have to take it to heart. Qin Yun comforted Yang Shiryu. The class battle is not as simple as winning or losing. It determines the resources of a class for the semester. If you lose, you will not be able to obtain any resources. If you win, you will be able to obtain a portion of resources. Yang Shiryu said, "If you don't have any resources, this semester will be bitter." The corner of Qin Yun's eyes twitched. This was clearly asking people to fight with their lives on the line. He asked, "Teacher, what do these resources include?" 20,000 crystal coins, 2 mid-grade spirit pills, qi refining pills will be distributed within the class. In addition, there is also a high-grade martial skill. All the students in the class can learn it. If you win 2 matches in a row, you'll get double the amount. When Qin Yun heard the resources that Yang Shiryu mentioned, he cursed the Empress in his heart. The Empress must have known these rules, which was why she had the other students transfer classes. This resulted in Class 9 only having one student and losing the class battle. When the surrounding older students saw Qin Yun's anxious expression, they found it extremely funny. Class 9 is about to lose without a fight. The group battle requires at least 10 people. Class 9 only has one person. Who asked Qin Yun to offend the Empress? I have to say, the Empress is truly brilliant. With such a move, Qin Yun won't be able to obtain any resources this semester. Without resources to cultivate and without progress, he will have to scram next semester. Once he's not a student of the Hualing Wu Academy, the Empress will be able to deal with him. Haha, Class 9 is really pitiful. I wonder what Teacher Yang is thinking right now. Her expression is very ugly. The older students watched from the side as they chatted and laughed. Because of a special situation this year, there is only one student in Class 9. In order to ensure fairness, the rules of the class battle have been changed from group battles to individual battles. This year's class battle will be 2 rounds of individual battles. The moment Principal Zhang said this, Qin Yun suddenly saw a glimmer of hope. This year's freshman class battle had actually canceled the team battle. Many people, including Yang Shiryu, were very surprised. The Hualing Wu Academy does not allow anyone to cause trouble in the dark and destroy fairness. Rules are dead and people are alive. They can be flexible in special situations. Principal Zhang said coldly. He was also very dissatisfied with the Empress's actions. Even so, Class 9 still has no chance of winning. Yesterday in the palace, although Qin Yun was able to defeat Qin Tianyi, he was also injured by an old official. His internal injuries should not be light. The other classes are filled with talents. There are people with legendary martial spirits and a few with 4 or 5 meridians. They are not weak. The injured Qin Yun is definitely not their match. Even if Qin Yun wins the first round, he won't be able to win the second round. He has to win 2 rounds in a row. When Yang Shiryu heard the crowd's discussion, she whispered to Qin Yun. You don't have to be sad. We won't be participating in this class battle. We'll think of another way to obtain resources. Qin Yun needed to fight 2 consecutive matches. He had to win consecutively in order to obtain resources. For him, 2 consecutive battles were not easy. There were many students from other classes, and both battles were fought by different people. Teacher, my elemental energy is beating and my injuries are healed. I want to fight, Qin Yun said to Yang Shiryu in a very soft voice. For the sake of rich resources, for the sake of his class and Yang Shiryu's glory, he had to go up and compete. He could not back down. Really? Hurry up and circulate your energy to make your elemental energy beat. Yang Shiryu was alarmed as she hurriedly grabbed Qin Yun's wrist to confirm further. Qin Yun took a few deep breaths before closing his eyes. He circulated the black yang art, and his elemental energy began to pulse. Yang Shiryu quickly sensed that Qin Yun's elemental energy was pulsating. What shocked her even more was that the elemental energy was pulsating violently. It could no longer be called a pulsation, but a violent vibration. She was the one who had given Qin Yun the black yang art. She knew it very well. If she wanted to cultivate it to the basics, it would take at least 10 days. However, the current Qin Yun had not only cultivated it to the basics, but to the small success realm. It had only been a single night. The progress of learning a cultivation technique was usually divided into 5 stages: initiation, small success, large success, great perfection, and perfection. Yang Shiryu suppressed the incomparable shock in her heart and said to Qin Yun seriously, You can fight, but remember, don't force yourself. If you injure your foundation, it will have a great impact on your future. I'll go up and draw lots now. The freshmen's class battle was to let the freshmen understand the cruelty of competition. If they lost here, they would only lose resources. If they lost outside, it was very likely that they would lose their lives. After drawing lots, Yang Shiryu obtained Class 7's lot. Their Class 9 was going to fight against Class 7. If they lost a match, they would be eliminated. In the end, there would only be 4 winners. It was very cruel. If they won a match, they would obtain an additional portion of resources. While it was very tempting, it was also accompanied by a great deal of risk. As long as they lost a match, they would not have a single resource. It was extremely cruel. All right, now each class will elect a representative. Principal Zhang shouted. Yang Shiryu's class naturally did not need to be chosen because Qin Yun was the only student. Soon, each class had chosen their representative for the first round. The person fighting Qin Yun was Yin Zhongming, who had just transferred to Class 7. He possessed the 4-Sun Spirit Pulse and the Golden Fire Martial Spirit. Yin Zhongming is the grandson of General Yin. Back then, this old turtle had a share in extracting my spirit vein. Qin Yun thought to himself, remember what I said before. Yang Shiryu reminded him again. Qin Yun was her only student. Nothing could happen to him. Without a doubt, the number of people paying attention to the battle between Qin Yun and Yin Zhongming was the most. Yin Zhongming is the grandson of a general. He has been heavily influenced by the martial way since he was young. His strength is definitely not ordinary. Of course, as for Qin Yun, he was crippled at the age of 10 and has been neglected for 5 years. It was only because of his dog's hit luck that he defeated Qin Tianyi. Now that he still has internal injuries, how can he be a match for him? Qin Yun walked onto the battling platform. When he heard the mockery and ridicule from the crowd, he secretly clenched his fists. The humiliation and ridicule he had endured for the past 5 years were just a form of training for him. Today, he was going to display the results of his training. Qin Yun, kneel. Apologize to the Empress. When Yin Zhongming saw Qin Yun go up on stage, he used a commanding tone and shouted at Qin Yun, As long as you admit your wrongs, I can show mercy. What big words. Even my royal father has never allowed me to kneel and bow. Who do you think you are? Your grandfather is a general. Could it be that he is already the emperor of Tianqin? Qin Yun said with a sneer. Your grandfather is just an old dog unto the empress. You are actually proud of him? The spectating students let out a low laugh. causing Yin Zhongming to be instantly enraged. He roared, "My grandfather is not someone a cripple like you can insult." He suddenly extended 3 fingers and said with a cold voice filled with contempt, "3 moves. I only need 3 moves to turn you into a complete cripple. Class 7 and Class 9 begin." An old man shouted at this moment. The furious Yin Zhongming flew towards Qin Yun like an arrow that had left the bow. His footsteps were extremely light. This is the falling swallow steps, a high-level footwork. Yin Zhongming has only learned a few moves, but it is already very powerful. The falling swallow steps is a pretty good martial art. Chapter 15. Tiger Fist Rage Yin Zhongming's footsteps were light as he flew like a swallow. With a whoosh, he arrived in front of Qin Yun. He suddenly clasped his 2 fingers together and gathered a large amount of inner qi on them. His fingertips trembled slightly as a transparent mist spewed out. Then, he stabbed Qin Yun's lower abdomen at an extremely fast speed. The lower abdomen was where the inner yuan was. The strength of Yin Zhongming's attack was at least 5,000 jin. It was obvious that he wanted to shatter Qin Yun's elemental energy. It was only a sparring match, but they used such a ruthless method. Seeing this, many of the older students frowned. They knew that Yin Zhongming was doing this to please the Empress. In the blink of an eye, Yin Zhongming's 2 fingers had stabbed into Qin Yun's lower abdomen. In that instant, everyone was certain that Qin Yun's elemental energy would definitely be crippled. Yang Shiyu was infuriated. She finally understood why Qin Yun hated the Empress and those sinister old officials so much. Yin Zhongming was secretly delighted. He believed that this move would definitely succeed. However, when his 2 fingers came into contact with Qin Yun's abdomen, it felt like he was stabbing steel. While he was shocked, he suddenly felt a burning pain on his wrist, as if he had been bitten by a scorching fong. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stunned. Despite being struck by Yin Zhongming's attack, Qin Yun remained motionless like a mountain. He even grabbed Yin Zhongming's wrist. "You are really ruthless." Qin Yun's voice was ice-cold and gloomy, filled with anger. As he spoke, he grabbed Yin Zhongming's wrist and forcefully twisted it. The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. "Ah!" Yin Zhongming let out a blood-curdling scream. His arm had been twisted off by Qin Yun. Only the flesh was still attached to his shoulder. It was painful to look at. Qin Yun clenched his fist tightly as his energy surged. He struck at Yin Zhongming's abdomen. The furious punch was like a ferocious tiger roaring in anger. "Ah!" Yin Zhongming's abdomen was hit, and he let out another blood-curdling screech as blood spurted from his mouth. "Stop!" A teacher flew over and shouted. Qin Yun's tiger-like fist did not lose its momentum. Like the roar of a ferocious tiger, it took the opportunity to charge at Yin Zhongming's face. Yin Zhongming, who was screaming in pain, was ruthlessly smashed by the fist. His body spun and flew off the stage, fainting. The teacher of Class 7 came over to inspect. Frowning, he said, "His inner yuan has dissipated. Quickly carry him for treatment." No one could say anything because Yin Zhongming was also very ruthless in his attack, just now. The 3 moves are over. The one who has become trash isn't me. It's you. Qin Yun looked at the unconscious Yin Zhongming on the ground and said coldly. The winner was Qin Yun, whom no one was optimistic about. Furthermore, he had crippled Yin Zhongming in 3 moves. The older students let out an uproar as they repeatedly mentioned Qin Yun's moves in surprise. Qin Yun's 3 moves were indeed astonishing. The changes in his punches were smooth, and his inner qi was ferocious and domineering. He could control it with ease, causing many teachers to exclaim in admiration, "Isn't that Spirit Tiger Fist? This is something that can be found on the streets." Qin Yun's inner qi is not weak. What's going on? Didn't he suffer from internal injuries? Why does it look like nothing happened? The strangest thing is, why didn't he suffer any injuries after being stabbed in the stomach by Yin Zhongming? Does this guy really only have a one-sun spiritual pulse? Maybe it's because of his purple gold fire martial spirit. With such a high-level martial spirit, it might even make his inner chi stronger. Qin Yun had been training his body crazily for 5 years, and his body was already extremely strong. Just now, he had circulated the Black Yang tactic, and his elemental energy had crazily vibrated. He had pushed out waves of extremely strong inner chi, causing his abdomen to swell and become extremely stiff. He had successfully blocked Yin Zhongming's attack. When inner chi was cultivated to a certain level, it would flow through the skin and flesh, making it invulnerable. Furthermore, Qin Yun had cultivated his inner force cultivation method to a small success overnight. His inner chi was released through his martial spirit and was twice as strong as Yin Zhongming's inner force. This was also the key to his victory. An old man shouted, "Class 7, Yin Zhongming has lost. Class 7 has been eliminated. Class 9's Qin Yun has won and will enter the second round of the competition." At the beginning, the students of Class 7 were very pleased with themselves. They believed that Yin Zhongming would easily defeat Qin Yun. But now, all of them had bitter expressions on their faces. Their resources for the semester were gone. This was all because of Yin Zhongming's defeat. They now believed that it was because Yin Zhongming had underestimated his opponent and ignored the fact that Qin Yun possessed the purple gold fire martial spirit. Only Yang Shiryu knew that Qin Yun had cultivated his inner force cultivation method to the small success stage, so his inner chi was very strong. Qin Yun walked down the dueling platform and came to Yang Shiryu's side. Yang Shiryu's eyes were filled with admiration as she smiled at Qin Yun. Her enchanting smile was beautiful and gentle, like a charming breeze that stirred one's heart. Very good. As long as the opponent in the second round isn't too strong, you will definitely win. Yang Shiryu heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Yun looked at the other dueling platforms. A few of them had already been decided. What surprised him was that the Jiang family disciple who had mastered the sound wave martial spirit had actually used the sound wave martial spirit to knock his opponent unconscious. To be able to use the power of the sound wave martial spirit so quickly, it was also very powerful. I must not face this guy, Qin Yun thought to himself. The other party's sound waves were too strange. Soon, the first round of martial arts competition ended and 8 classes were eliminated. Next, the drawing of lots for the next round of martial arts competition began. After Yang Shiryu drew her lot, she secretly cursed her bad luck. She actually drew Class 11. Class 11's Yi Weixian possessed a gold thunder martial spirit because he grew up in a family with a thunder martial spirit. Therefore, even though he had just awakened his thunder martial spirit, he could still use a bit of thunder attribute inner chi. Yi Weixian is from the Empress's family. He called the Empress his aunt, so he definitely won't go easy on you. Yang Shiryu warned in a low voice. I saw his battle just now. He can use a bit of thunder attribute inner chi. You have to be careful. So the Empress also has a thunder martial spirit? I thought she had a venomous snake martial spirit. Qin Yun curled his lips as he walked onto the dueling platform. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, he let his elemental energy vibrate, resonating with the purple gold fire martial spirit, condensing and releasing a vigorous flame inner chi. Yi Weixian also wanted to be with a beautiful teacher like Yang Shiryu, but he was forced to change classes. This was mainly because of Qin Yun, so he pushed all the blame onto Qin Yun. He also believed that as long as he crippled Qin Yun, he would be able to return to Yang Shiryu's class. As soon as Yi Weixian walked onto the stage, his fist overflowed with flickering electric threads. That was the lightning inner chi. Yi Weixian hasn't even started cultivating his inner force mental cultivation method, yet he can make his inner chi possess the thunder attribute. It seems like he cultivated the Yi family's thunderclap fist to be able to make his inner chi contain a trace of thunder and lightning. Don't underestimate this trace of thunder and lightning inner chi. It's much stronger than the inner chi without any attribute. Some of the older students began to exclaim in admiration. They yearned for Yi Weishuan's golden thunder martial spirit. As for Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial spirit, it was something they yearned for even in their dreams. Your spirit tiger fist seems to be very strong. How about this? Why don't we exchange a punch first? Yi Weixian gave Qin Yun a contemptuous smile, his face filled with arrogance. When everyone heard that, they couldn't help but roar with laughter. The Yi clan's thunderclap fist is the Yi clan's ultimate technique, while the spirit tiger fist can barely be considered a low-tier elementary technique. Yi Weixian is too much of a bully, using a spirit-level martial skill to bully a beginner-level martial skill. Qin Yun isn't stupid. He probably won't agree to it. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. The thunderclap fist was actually a spirit rank martial skill. He had never learned any martial skills in the Imperial Palace, so he couldn't help but feel jealous. Chapter 16. Exclusive Enjoyment. Keep your word. Yi Weixian was delighted when he saw Qin Yun agree. He was very confident in his family's thunderclap fist. After all, it was a spirit-level martial skill. How could he not be confident? An old man below the stage shouted, "Class 9 and Class 11 begin." The moment the old man finished speaking, Qin Yun and Yi Weixian charged at each other at an extremely fast speed. They were both using the momentum of their sprints to make their punches stronger. Everyone held their breath as they watched the dueling platform. Qin Yun and Yi Weixian were both freshmen, but the match was very exciting. What was shocking was that Yi Weishuan's right fist, which had blue veins popping out, suddenly overflowed with throbbing lightning, emitting crackling sounds. With a glance, one could tell that the lightning inner chi was extremely strong. He had already cultivated the thunderclap fist to a certain level. After Qin Yun and Yi Weixian charged over, they roared at the same time and punched out with great force. When the two fists collided, Yi Weishuan's fist flickered with lightning, while Qin Yun's fist surged with a pale, golden flame. Flames burned on Qin Yun's fist. This was a flame condensed from inner chi. When the people below the stage saw Qin Yun unleash flames, they cried out in alarm. To be able to condense such a strong flame, it meant that the inner chi was released through the martial spirit. From the level of the flames, it could be seen that Qin Yun had cultivated his inner force cultivation method to the small success realm. Qin Yun's level of inner chi far surpassed Yi Weishuan's weak lightning inner chi. Yi Weixian was enveloped by a scorching wave of air. He knew that Qin Yun's inner force was incomparably powerful. He felt fear in his heart, but it was already too late. Boom! The two fists finally collided. Flames flew in all directions, and light exploded. Yi Weixian screamed miserably as his entire body was covered in flames. He was thrown out of the battling platform by the powerful impact and fell to the ground. A teacher hurriedly came up to extinguish the flames. Yi Weishuan's arm was already charred black and emitted a charred smell. It could be considered crippled. Unless he used precious pills, it would be difficult to cure. When everyone saw Yi Weishuan's miserable appearance, they were all shocked. They could not believe that the thunderclap fist had lost to the common spirit tiger fist. Qin Yun had just obtained the Black Yang art from Yang Shiryu yesterday, and had cultivated it to the small success realm overnight. Without a teacher, he was able to perfectly fuse his elemental energy with his martial spirit, releasing an intense flame. With this level of comprehension, he could be called a martial arts genius. When they saw how heaven-defying Qin Yun was, the eyes of many disciples from prestigious sects turned red. Class 9's Qin Yun wins. The elder had presided over many battles between freshmen, but Qin Yun had shocked him the most. If not for the fact that he only had one spirit vein, he would definitely be a top genius with a limitless future. After Qin Yun walked off the stage, President Zhang walked over with a smile and handed Yang Shiryu 2 boxes. This is the prize for the group battle. 40 purple crystal coins can be exchanged for 40,000 crystal coins. There are also 4 mid-grade spirit pills, chi refining pills. As for the 2 high-grade martial skills, I need to go to the martial arts pavilion to choose them myself. 2 portions of resources were enjoyed by Qin Yun alone. The students of a defeated class were so jealous that their eyes turned red. 1 person enjoyed the resources of 2 classes. Even the eyes of the surrounding older students were burning with jealousy. Originally, Yang Shiryu had a stomach full of anger because of the students' collective transfer. Now that she saw Qin Yun win 2 rounds in a row, her anger completely dissipated. If they hadn't changed classes, you wouldn't have been able to enjoy so many resources alone. 40 purple coins isn't much. The main thing is that the 2 high-grade martial skills and the chi refining pills are more precious. You have to cherish them well. Her beautiful eyes coldly swept across the students who had changed classes. Her cold and complacent eyes were filled with ridicule and disdain. It could be said that she had raised her eyebrows. Teacher, I'll return these 20 purple coins to you. Qin Yun had borrowed 20,000 crystal coins from Yang Shiryu before, but he never expected that he would be able to repay it now. Purple coins and ordinary crystal coins all contain special spiritual energy. This special spiritual energy could be used to set up formations or as fertilizer for growing spiritual herbs. It had a wide range of uses. The crystal coins were obtained from mining crystal ores. They were square pieces the size of a fingernail. I'm in a good mood today, so there's no need to return it. Consider it as a reward. Oh right, you're the only one in the dormitory. You can move in with me, so it'll be easier for me to guide you. That's not too good. Qin Yun was bashful and embarrassed. Let's go. As Yang Shiryu spoke, she pulled Qin Yun's hand and led him out of the training grounds. The large group of students behind them watched as they left hand in hand. Their jealous eyes were about to spit out flames. As for the students who had changed classes, they were so angry that they vomited blood. If they had not changed classes, Qin Yun would not have had such an opportunity. It was them who allowed Qin Yun to enjoy 2 sets of resources and obtain the appreciation of a beautiful teacher. And all of this was orchestrated by the Empress. The Empress had helped Qin Yun. She was simply like her own mother. How could she have a grudge with Qin Yun? However, in the palace, when the Empress heard of this matter, her nose went crooked from anger. Everything in the room that could be smashed was smashed by her. Qin Yun followed Yang Shiryu to a lake in the south of the Hua Lingwu Academy. Beside the lake was a large lawn. There were many large and small houses built there. They were the residences of the teachers. Yang Shiryu's house was located in a bamboo forest. It was very quiet. There were fake mountains, ponds, and pavilions in the courtyard. It was elegant and comfortable. Yang Shiryu brought Qin Yun to the living room and said, "Release your inner chi to its strongest level for me to see." Qin Yun took a deep breath and released his strongest inner chi, condensing it in his palm. Yang Shiryu frowned. She was very puzzled by Qin Yun's situation and found it very interesting. This was the first time she had observed someone with a purple gold martial spirit at such a close distance. She asked doubtfully, could it be that the purple gold fire martial spirit can make up for your 1 spirit vein weakness? Your current inner chi is very strong, almost comparable to the 5th level of the martial body stage. If you eat those 4 chi refining pills, it is very likely that you will break through to the 5th level. Really? Qin Yun was very happy. If he could step into the 5th level, the new students who entered the Hua Lingwu Academy with him would be left far behind him. Don't be happy too early. Jiang Lang, who possesses the sound wave martial spirit, is not to be trifled with. He is also a very vicious person. The brains of the 2 students who fought with him were damaged by the sound waves. They're no different from dead people. Yang Shiryu's expression was solemn. The Jiang family is also a great power in the Tianqin Empire. Qin Yun memorized it in his heart and said with a nod, "If I meet him, I will definitely be careful. Eat the chi refining pill first, and you don't need to go to the classroom in the future. In any case, you're the only one in my class, so it's much more convenient." Yang Shiryu smiled gently, as beautiful as a white flower blooming. It was obvious that she was in an extremely good mood. "I'll go cultivate now." Qin Yun could not wait any longer. He hurriedly entered his room and swallowed 2 qi refining pills in one gulp. The qi refining pill contains more pure 9 yang energy than the spiritual energy pill. I can absorb it all through the 9 yang divine spirit. At this moment, Qin Yun realized that the spirit vein had a huge impact on his cultivation. The same type of pill brought about a huge difference in the effects of 1 meridian and 9 meridians. Chapter 17. Xiao Yuel on, how strange. Where did the spirit pill's inner qi go? Inner qi is only so big. Where can it be hidden? Qin Yin was very puzzled. The 2 qi refining pills did not increase his inner qi. Through the 9 yang divine spirit, he absorbed the 9 types of spiritual energy contained within the qi refining pill, but it did not improve at all. Eat 2 more pills and see what's going on. Qin Yin could only give it another try. This time, he had to observe carefully. If the previous situation occurred again, he would know the reason. The qi refining pill contained a large amount of spiritual energy. During the absorption process, one would not feel hungry and would not be able to feel the passage of time. Late at night, the sky was filled with stars. The earth that had been roasted by the 9 suns was finally able to rest and fall into silence. Qin Yin was in his room, refining the qi refining pill. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and his face revealed a look of joy. He muttered to himself, "So that's how it is." The 2 qi refining pills he had eaten this time still did not increase his elemental energy. However, he was extremely excited. That was because he finally understood the reason. Qin Yun had just discovered that there was another inner yuan within the inner yuan. This was the second inner yuan that had just been condensed. After he had awakened the purple gold fire martial spirit, his inner yuan had turned purplish gold. And now, the second inner yuan that he had cultivated was black. The formation of the inner yuan was because of the mysterious black vibration martial spirit. The vibration martial spirit was a legendary martial spirit, so it naturally needed its own inner yuan to reside in. Therefore, after Qin Yin consumed the qi refining pill that contained a large amount of spiritual energy, he would automatically condense the black inner yuan. Great! The vibration martial spirit can be hidden very well now. It's hidden within the purple gold inner yuan. Although it's small in size, it's very powerful. Qin Yin pressed his hand on a table and secretly circulated his vibrating inner qi. Inner qi surged out from his palm, creating a shock wave that shattered the table into a pile of pieces. What would happen if the fire inner qi and the vibration inner qi were combined? Qin Yin could only think about it for the time being. He did not dare to act recklessly, as it would cause a huge commotion. The black martial spirit was too strange, so he did not want others to know about it. For qi refining pills did not allow me to break through, but they allowed me to condense the second elemental energy. The inner qi released by the second inner elemental energy is even stronger. The inner qi of the 2 inner elemental energies can also be used together. The purple gold fire martial spirit can also absorb the inner qi of the vibrating inner elemental energy. Qin Yin gave it a try and indeed, it worked. When the inner qi of 2 inner yuan was activated together, the inner qi could leave the body. This was equivalent to the standard of the 5th level of the martial body realm. The standard for the 5th level of the martial body stage was to leave the body with inner qi. When one cultivated their elemental energy and inner qi to a certain level, they would be able to activate their inner qi to leave their body. This was the 5th level of the martial body realm. In terms of elemental energy alone, Qin Yun was at the 4th level of the martial body realm. However, with dual elemental inner qi, he was at the 5th level of the martial body realm. Even if I test my elemental energy, I can only detect that it's at the 4th level. Qin Yun was very satisfied with the effects of the qi refinement pill, allowing him to condense a second elemental energy. Early in the morning, after Qin Yun woke up, he went to the small hall and saw a large table of breakfast. It was prepared by Yang Shiryu. "Hurry up and eat." Yang Shiryu asked, "Have you broken through?" "Today, She was wearing a light purple tight-fitting dress. Amidst the faint charm, there was a kind of noble temperament, and the graceful curves of her delicate body made her appear sexy and charming. No, Qin Yin shook his head. As he ate the delicious snacks, he admired the pleasing beauty in front of him. Looks like it's a problem with the spirit vein. You only have one spirit vein, so you can only absorb the spirit energy of one sun from the Qi refinement pill. Yang Shiryu faintly sighed, her beautiful face filled with helplessness. She had originally thought that Qin Yun would be able to absorb more spiritual energy from the Qi refinement pill after awakening his purple gold fire martial spirit. However, the result was still the same. After breakfast, I'll accompany you to the martial arts pavilion to choose a martial skill and then guide you in learning martial skills. Yang Shiryu only had Qin Yun as a student, so she naturally hoped that he would become an outstanding martial artist. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door of the garden outside. Yang Shiryu walked over to open the door and could not help but be shocked. Then, she hurriedly walked into the house. Teacher, who's here? Did I cause trouble? When Qin Yun saw Yang Shiryu's expression, he felt somewhat worried. Previously, he had seriously injured Yi Wei-xian and Yin Zhoming. He thought that the two families had come looking for him. It's Xiao Yuelan. She's right outside the door. Yang Shiryu's face was filled with surprise as she asked. She asked me to ask you if you want to see her. Qin Yin was still chewing on something when he heard that Xiao Yuelan had arrived. He could not help but be stunned. The proud daughter of the Heavenly Roar Empire, Princess Yulan, who possessed the 7 Yang spirit vein, had personally come to find him. Why is she looking for me? Could it be that she wants to humiliate me? Qin Yun hurriedly swallowed a snack. His heart was in a dilemma. It was difficult for him to decide whether he should see Xiao Yuelan or not. I don't know. Yang Shiryu sighed softly. This is your own matter. You can make your own decision. Qin Yun had the legendary talent of the 9 Yang spirit vein and dual martial spirits. Compared to Xiao Yuelan's 7 Yang spirit vein and legendary martial spirit, he was not much weaker. This immediately filled him with confidence as he said, "Let her in. She has advanced to the 8th level martial body realm. She is only 1 year older than you. This is truly surprising." Yang Shiryu sighed before inviting Xiao Yuelan in. Qin Yun's heart trembled once again. Xiao Yuelan was only 16 years old, and she was already a martial artist at the 8th level of the martial body realm. Before long, he would definitely be able to advance to the 9th level and be as powerful as Yang Shiryu. The old officials and generals in the court were only at the 8th or 9th level of the martial body realm, yet they were already so arrogant. In other words, it was extremely likely that Xiao Yuelan had stepped into the martial Dao realm above the martial body realm at a very young age. The moment Xiao Yuelan entered the hall, it was as if a cold wind had blown over, causing Qin Yun to shiver. Her body emitted a faint fragrance that was accompanied by an ice-cold aura. It was very special. Xiao Yuelan wore a bamboo hat and a black tight suit. She was as tall as Yang Shiryu. Although she was only 16 years old, the graceful curves of her body were comparable to Yang Shiryu's. Xiao Yuelan slowly took off her bamboo hat. Qin Yun finally saw the face of the proud daughter of heaven. He was not disappointed. She tied her long hair into a ponytail and dressed very simply. Her beautiful and fair face was very beautiful, but it was filled with cold frost. Her entire body exuded a cold and aloof aura. It was unknown what she had experienced to become so cold. What surprised Qin Yun the most was that this girl, who was only 1 year older than him, would occasionally reveal a domineering, killing intent in her ice-cold and beautiful eyes. Xiao Yuelan placed one hand on a black scabbard sword hanging from her waist. She held the hilt of the sword, causing the cold and aloof her to carry a domineering and wild charm. Yang Shiryu was also a cold-faced beauty, but she had a charming, gentle, and charming side to her. She usually looked cold because as a teacher, she had to make herself look cold and stern in order to intimidate those arrogant students. As for Xiao Yuelan, she was completely ice-cold, and her killing intent was not concealed at all. She was just a young girl, but she gave off an extremely dangerous feeling. Xiao Yuelon used her bright and beautiful eyes that occasionally revealed killing intent to size up Qin Yun. Qin Yun was stared at by the eyes that carried traces of killing intent. Suddenly, he felt a great pressure. This was a pressure that came from the mind. The moment he saw Xiao Yuelon, he forgot what the dessert he had eaten earlier tasted like. There was also an indescribable feeling of suffocation. It was not because Xiao Yuelon's beauty was suffocating, but because her cold, killing intent was suffocating. Chapter 18. Fire Cloud steps. When Qin Yun saw Xiao Yuelon's killing intent, he suddenly felt that canceling the engagement in the Heavenly Roar Empire was not a bad thing for him. Back then, our mother had secretly arranged an engagement for us, and even signed an engagement contract. Is the contract in your hands? Although Xiao Yuelon's voice was cold and emotionless, it was surprisingly pleasant to hear. Contract book? Big Sister Grand Preceptor left it to me. Do you want it? Qin Yun said with a nod. The engagement contract was placed in the storage space of the Nine Yang Divine Spirit. He didn't know where he got the mood to actually chew on the snacks while speaking. He just felt that the snacks were tasteless. Take good care of the contract. 1 year from now, at my engagement ceremony, you must bring this contract to me. After Xiao Yuelon finished speaking, she turned around and walked to the door. She said coldly, "If you don't come, I will chase you to the ends of the earth." Qin Yun was confused as he asked, "Are you going to humiliate me at the engagement ceremony a year from now?" Humiliate you? I don't have the time. Furthermore, you don't have the strength to be humiliated by me. After Xiao Yuelon finished speaking, she opened the door and left in a hurry. Qin Yun looked at Yang Shiryu with a puzzled expression. It seems like she has undergone a very cruel training in the Tianxian martial school, which is why she has become like this. She should have come to find you secretly. Could it be that she just wanted to say these words to you? It's really hard to understand. Yang Shiryu shook her head, also puzzled. In this year, you must work hard to cultivate so that she doesn't want to humiliate you in public. Anyway, just give her the contract when the time comes. If she marries the crown prince, it will be a headache for the empress. Qin Yun shook his head and sighed as he continued eating his food. Hurry up and eat. We still have to go to the martial arts pavilion. Yang Shiryu urged. You have to hurry up and master your martial skills. When the time comes, you can participate in the Heavenly Lion Martial Meet. What is the Heavenly Lion Martial Meet? Qin Yun asked. Once every 5 years, it is a martial arts competition for the 4th and 5th level of the martial body realm. Although there have been no students at the 4th level participating, I think you can give it a try. Yang Shiryu said. Is that really okay? Qin Yun's heart stirred. His cultivation was equivalent to the 5th level martial body realm. If he were to participate, he would have a high chance of winning. I'm just asking you to join in the fun and increase your combat experience. I'm not asking you to fight for first place. Yang Shiryu tidied up the table. You're facing older students. It'll be difficult for you to win consecutively. After Qin Yun finished eating, he followed Yang Shiryu to the martial arts pavilion to retrieve a martial arts cultivation technique and 2 high-grade martial skills. The martial arts pavilion was a 7-story tower located in the middle of the Hua Lingwu Academy. This area was surrounded by high walls and was usually not accessible. Furthermore, it was heavily guarded. Yang Shiryu and Qin Yun could only enter after showing their Class 9 wooden badges. Beginner, intermediate, and advanced martial arts were all on the 1st level. Qin Yun looked up at the ancient stone pagoda and was secretly alarmed. It was just the 1st level, and there were 3 types of martial arts. Wouldn't the higher levels be even more precious? On the 1st floor of the martial arts pavilion, there were a few middle-aged guards at the entrance. There were also more than 10 middle-aged martial artists patrolling inside. Yang Shiryu and Qin Yun were interrogated before they could enter the library. Teacher, how can I obtain a better martial arts cultivation technique? The Black Yang art that Qin Yun was currently learning was only a transition. In the Hua Lingwu Academy, as long as you have sufficient strength, You can obtain a low-grade profound rank martial art at the highest level. Yang Shiryu was familiar with the road as she passed through the bookshelves. Low-grade profound rank, far surpassing the spirit rank. One had to know that many martial arts families would be very proud of themselves if they could possess a spirit-level martial art. Qin Yun was determined to obtain a profound rank cultivation technique. Yang Shiryu said, "It's been many years since anyone has obtained a profound rank cultivation technique." She took down a book from a bookshelf and handed it to Qin Yun. This is the Fire Cloud Steps. It's a movement technique that's very suitable for people with the fire martial spirit to learn. She had a better understanding of martial art cultivation techniques, so the ones she chose were more suitable for Qin Yun. In the Hualing Wu Academy, teachers could not teach martial arts above the spirit level to students. This would destroy fairness and was not allowed. The Black Yang art that Yang Shiryu had given Qin Yun was not a spirit-level martial art, so there was no problem. Not long after, Yang Shiryu found another cultivation technique for Qin Yun and said, "This is the Flaming Light Fist. It's also very suitable for you. Go to the study and memorize it." After she took down the two cultivation techniques, she was not allowed to rummage through them. Furthermore, the martial arts library had a rule that one could not bring martial arts books out of the library. One had to memorize them inside. Qin Yun came to a quiet study room and began to memorize the two high-grade martial arts techniques. Many of these martial arts books had annotations left behind by their seniors. They were extremely important. So many disciples of martial arts families wanted to enter the martial arts academy because of these books that had a large number of annotations. This would allow them to master martial arts techniques faster. Qin Yun used 4 hours to memorize everything before leaving the martial arts library with Yang Shiryu. "Teacher, you seem to be very careful when you were in the martial arts library," Qin Yun said softly as he walked out of the library. "If you make a mistake inside, you won't be able to go in again. I'm no exception." Yang Shiryu also whispered, "If there weren't so many restrictions, I could have directly passed on my skills to you." Most of the cultivation techniques she had mastered were obtained from the martial arts academy and could not be easily passed on to others. It was not a cultivation technique obtained from a martial arts academy, and it was of a high level. It could not be given to her own students to learn, as it would destroy fairness. This was the rule of the martial arts academy. Unless she had secretly obtained other martial arts, she would be able to pass it on to Qin Yun. After returning to the small residence in the bamboo forest, Yang Shiryu guided Qin Yun in learning the martial arts technique he had just obtained. The Flame Cloud Steps mainly uses the characteristics of the fire energy to heat up, causing a special type of heat to appear in one's body. Then, through the heat, one's body becomes lighter. It is said that once one cultivates it to the great perfection stage, one can fly in the air. Yang Shiryu said, "Teacher, how are the levels of martial arts techniques evaluated? Is the higher the level of a martial art, the better?" Qin Yun did not know much about this. The higher the level of the inner force cultivation method, the better. As for martial skills, it mainly depended on the person. The more proficient they were, the stronger they would be. The mastery of martial arts was divided into entry, small success, large success, great perfection, and perfection. The vast majority of people could only reach the large success stage. Very few people could learn to the great perfection stage. As for the perfection stage, it is just a concept. Even the creator of a martial art might not be able to reach it. Yang Shiryu explained about martial arts in a very serious manner. As for the division of martial arts, it is evaluated from two aspects. First, it is to see the effect of reaching the beginner level. Martial arts techniques are meant to unearth the power of inner chi. The higher the level of martial arts, the stronger the inner chi can be. Spirit level and high-level martial arts, if one were to master them to the beginner level, it would definitely be the spirit-level martial arts that would cause the inner chi to explode with even greater power. If you can learn a high-level martial skill to the great perfection stage, then you'll be able to match a spirit-level martial skill. Thank you for your explanation, teacher. Qin Yun nodded. He had a good understanding of martial arts techniques. for you to be able to cultivate the black yang tactic to the small success stage. I can see that your perception is extremely high. The perception of martial arts is more important than the spirit vein martial spirit. You should learn those two martial arts first. If there's anything you don't understand, I'll answer you when I come back. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.